What is up, my friends? This is Dan Tom, host of the Protect Your Neck podcast. And sorry I'm late as per usual, but on this here program, the Protect Your Neck podcast, we break down high-level MMA. That's what we're going to do here tonight. Whenever you're listening to this, hopefully it's for the fight. Forgot my little Troy McClure intro. Yes, of course, you may see me from such programs as being the analyst at MMA Junkie or contributing betting analyst over at the Action Network. But yes, on this here program, we lately, very lately, break down MMA late in the week, late at night, and late for the start time. Apologies. My dog was enjoying seconds on my salmon leftovers. Yeah, you, Brownie. Yeah, and I have to, pretend that I'm mad at her, because, if I laugh like I want to do, because she's just, so giant and gets on the counter, she's going to wag her tail and thinks it's a good thing, so I got to and send her in a timeout, which is just a verbal discipline, but she goes underneath my bed, even though she's giant. It's hilarious. Now she's just staring at me. Yeah, anyways, guys, we're going to be breaking down, of course, UFC on ESPN 56, UFC St. Louis, UFC Fight Night Lewis versus some other guy, Nascimento, of course. And, we'll try to break down what it is along the way, as per usual. Even when we don't get a card headlined by non-heavyweights or big men, the UFC will stack it with as many big guys as possible to where the really good fights are on the prelims. But thankfully, I've got some takes, leans, possible bets, as well as did some analysis on some, not all, of course, as per usual, the prelim matches that I would like to get to because, well, I'm paid to break down the main card, baby. So I kind of have to prioritize that from head to toe instead of toe to head, so to speak. Thank you guys for popping in the chat. Way too kind to get this many. This many was you might not think it's a lot, but it's a lot for me. See y'all in here. The enforcers in here. Jimmy Kudo, no worries. Happy to help mod again. I'm so grateful to have you, Jimmy, and your contributions more so than your mod because you're a insightful fan, sir. Real Susan Truesdale. Hey, Dan, this is one of my favorite communities because we can all talk sharply with you and others can share the same passion for techniques. Absolutely. That's what I mean by the nerds, and I mean that endearingly. Rain Lamina. No clever pun this week. Happy to see the most respected analysts and minds of the space talk about fights. I appreciate that. And besides, Jack Slack's the man, so we'll leave the funny rhymes, at least those particular ones, to him. I don't think I could do any justice anyways. James Kendrick, Dan, I really want to thank you for calling out the lazy analysis out there. It happened with UFC 300 with Wei Lee, where people will call her weak champion, and the same thing is happening to Pantoja. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. Of course, we're going to recap, as per usual, UFC 301, which is, the event before. So if you guys don't like that, you're stuck with me live, unfortunately, but if you're listening in the future, 5-star ratings and reviews, really appreciate that on iTunes, by the way. But yeah, you can use the timestamps that I put, whether it's the basic one, tells you when the card starts, and the show notes details for those audio listeners, or the more in-depth ones that I double back after this live recording's done, and I will actually break down each individual timestamp matchup for you. Hopefully that helps. But yeah, we'll get to that. Both of which highly disrespected despite giving us great fights. Yep. James Kendrick adds. Plus, I want to throw shade at MMA Line Mover, I don't know who that is, who bet $5K on Yan Xiaonan like a doofus, then called Ghost and Wei Lee's team mediocre. Oh, wow. That aged poorly, didn't it? I'd never been more happy for a loser like that to lose money. Yeah, especially if he's disrespecting our guy Ghost here. We stand together. I back Ghost all the way. Mark Fellows, Dan, thinking of becoming a jiu-jitsu coach in order to seduce supermodels. Good idea? I don't know what your wife's gonna think about that, Mark, but yeah, man. I mean, I think it helps that you're Australian because I feel like you guys are just so jovial. Y'all can just endear yourself to any group and talk yourself out of probably any situation, just because you guys are just I know Canadians tend to get the friendly, but it's more like sorry. Like Australians have a suave to them, in their own way. So tip of the hat to you, sir. Speaking of Ghost Phantom, what's up, Dan? We're back. Yes, we are. Makoto Kyogoku in the house. Hi, Dan. Hello. All right, let's get started. We got a lot to go. I'm late, and it's actually like a decent, if you will, card to recap, I should say. And I got the results pulled up. Look at that. I think I did that like right after the card. That's something I do. Like if again, we're coming off of a losing night, of course. As I called, you can't. God forbid we get 2 wins in a row. Much less a big night. Which I did the math. My last big night was not. It was on the borderline of a big night. That Walker Ankalaev one or whatever that we did in the beginning of the year. The only other winning card of 2 this whole year. But you actually got to go back all the way to 2022. That's right, baby. 2022 in August. Shout out to my guy Clint. Had a big night. But I was saying, I think I misquoted myself though. I said it's been like a couple of years. It hasn't quite been a couple of years since I've had a 15-unit night or above. It's been a year, but it's been a year and a half, a little over that, right? August 2022, Cruz Vera San Diego card, the David Clark card. That was a great one for many reasons. So you like to think we're due, but that's not gonna happen, which is fine. It was an honest card, straight up. There were some controversies, and some of them we are arguably on the right side of. So we'll definitely talk about those positives as well, or maybe not positives, but as far as us being on the positive side of some weird situations, But again, for those keeping track at home, we'll talk about. You guys be the judge whether or not we count some of these in this card. But even if we do, again, like I said, I still only need one hand going back to the pandemic, 2020. And again, feel free to enter the challenge. Any weird decisions, really bad decisions, injuries, fighters quitting, whatever, early stoppages, late stoppages. You plug it into the chat and I tell you which side I was on, and so far I think we're like at 4. Either way, maybe 5 after today. We'll see. We still only need one hand going back 4 years, and on all those examples too. When we actually go back to the cards itself, I still lost on those cards. So again, variance be damned on this show, folks. And you ain't gonna get much variance talk here. Well, you actually get a lot of it, but just not like the good kind, because I don't know if it exists. But thank you guys for hitting that like button. Yeah, we went 10-3 overall. 6 something UFC recap. We went 10-3 overall in picks. So we did good in picks. When we had a winning night, I think we were like, what was it, like 60-40 or a 40-60 kind of a split on picks. It wasn't that great, but again, that's MMA gambling. Shout out to the guy Johnny the Greek, right? He has one of the best sayings: "Bad bets in this space cash all the time." And haters will be like, "Oh, look what you did in picks." It's like it doesn't matter, as far as betting goes, because look, I did good in picks, 10-3. That I'd say it's pretty good. And we'll see if we have the usual. You could argue it was this, but either way, 10-3 is pretty good. But again, it was a losing night. It was minus 346 units, 3.46 units. So we didn't get reverse sweep. Thank the MMA gods, I guess. I dare thank them at this point. But so we went 1-0 on straight plays, 1-0 on the parlay, 1-3 in props, 0-7 in round flyers. There was one there that was so close and would have been, really helpful. We went one again. We're only hitting whether we do a round robin or a hedge round robin. We're going 1-5 in both, which means 0-1 in the long shot parlay. So it's tough, I feel like I'm trying to learn my lessons as far as doing certain things, But again, classic Dan Tom. We'll talk about my awful pick, not picking Josiah. Why don't you guys stop me? Why don't you guys take the wheel? Like, Dan, you're drunk. Step out. You're going against the GOAT again, and not only is that risky and silly, because it's always risky, and it's in particularly silly. Granted, we're all speaking in hindsight right now, but I want to be fair and eat the crow and give myself the shit, just as much as I give it, right? But akin to Aldana, who I didn't think maybe he's the coolest fighter, but I like Aldana, or akin to Gon, who I don't really like Gon, and I don't even think he's the coolest fighter. Again, this was just, in my defense, it was analysis that you could point to. It was things that we've seen before. There were precedences, so on and so forth. Yeah, sure, I could show my work, I guess. But what was shown was not that it was a dumb pick, which it was, even if you get the pick right, the amount of, like I said, the amount of shit you have to get, for picking against a Jones or a Nunes, even if you get proven right, just the amount you got to endure publicly before you get there, from posting it to the day of, right? It's a dumb pick. But then what makes it worse? They go out there and they freeze and they don't show their game. And everybody who just had like a lazy breakdown, like John Jones a go. Well, we got a breakdown. John Jones go. Or, the same thing with Amanda Nunes or discount, and I get it. Who wants to go back and watch Ariane Aldana footage, I mean, people in this space who bet like me have a hard enough time going back to watch the footage we're supposed to watch, much less, no offense, ladies, but, certain divisions, right? Let's be real, right? So I get it, but at the same time, as a guy who, we'll get into it with this recap, that was especially annoying, right? And I guess we're getting into it now. But yeah, that was especially annoying. Which was fuck. I guess I'll finish the thought now. So I guess we're starting with the co-main event, then we'll go to the main event. Aldo Martinez here. Sorry, folks. It's okay. It's all timestamped as one, and people either sit through this or they don't. So fuck it. But yeah, pretty much how I pointed out on this show that like everyone's focusing on Martinez's leg kicks because that was where he got the stoppages. And I'm not a big stats guy, but the stats where they are helpful is when they kind of, and not help add as in a confirmation bias, even though technically it's what it is. But I mean, I was just stating kind of a really basic fact that there really wasn't a lot of coloring on. Is that kind of illustrating the point of it both being impressive and the fact that like he really doesn't kick the legs as much as being advertised. Like even in his leg kick stoppages, you look at the head, body, leg strikes. Not only is leg strikes like the lowest generally, you go back to even his stoppage by strikes, leg strikes in particular, it's like 7? You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of southpaws, and again, this is where my bias comes in. I'm like, ooh, cool southpaw guy, and I have that bias, and that bit me here. Yeah, I had both biases at play. I had the Aldo / old vet bias, WEC bias, but then I also had, the southpaw who gets, a lot of shit on. And Jonathan Martinez is one of those fighters who kind of like the Alex Perez one, where it's just like, dude, even worse so because Alex Perez, at least he was only really getting disrespected from pandemic career on, which was granted a long 4 years, right? / slightly before that, if you want to count to the Joe Benavidez, because every fight since the Joe Benavidez fight, you have to hear about, but I don't know about Alex Perez's durability, and then they don't mention the headbutt. I don't know what I get more upset about, because again, like, hearing people break down Alex Perez fights and not mention the headbutt in the Joe B fight, and I love Joe B, but I'm just saying it's so freaking annoying. It's really crucial. Or like, again, like, no shade. This is just something that I've always been super annoyed with. It's been on my top 5 worst scorecards. But when people go back to shitting on Jonathan Martinez, they shit on him and they'll like reference like, oh, he lost to Andre Uhl, and I'm just like, motherfuckers, did you watch the fight? Like, I don't know what pisses me off more. I was gonna tweet that last week. Like, I don't know what pisses me off more. People, citing Benavidez and Alex Perez and not mentioning the headbutt, or people shitting on Jonathan Martinez and using the Andre Uhl result to justify it. Drives me fucking nuts. Probably the latter, to be honest. And then I have to hear that over and over again. And again, I don't want to say that lazy analysis because like this was analysis that was like not just from people I like, people I respect, gambling people, non-gambling people, like analysts, and I was just like, oh man. I was like, I mean, I get it. It's Occam's razor. If you are going to be reductive, you be reductive on someone like Aldo, but be reductive on a GOAT. Not saying anybody was being necessarily reductive or bad analysis, right? And I was like, yeah, I was like, yeah, the leg kicks definitely would be a really bad move if he just goes out there and just throws some leg kicks and lets Aldo dictate. And sure enough, that's what Martinez did. But I'll tell you what, it was actually... it was before the fight started. I knew the Martinez was dead in the water, and the thing is, I think I only had just over a half a unit exposure on Martinez. It was my bets were the under because, I figured Aldo was going to be able to tool him up at boxing range like he did, and knock him out like he almost did, right? And if it did go to the scorecards, with it being Brazil and everyone talking about the judges and this and that, I had the split prop because again. I already talked too much, and I'm already talking too much as per usual. But the most annoying part is like the way I fortify my bets too, where it's like not just the classic. Oh, the one time Dan Tom goes against the veteran, he gets, of course, the one time Dan Tom goes for the young hype chalk. You know what I'm saying? Of course, right? That's when it hits the other way. But like even if you just kind of fortify, you look at the way I kind of spread both units coverage. As far as if you go to my my play section and stuff, and you see kind of how I had it fortified. There are outs to get out and not make any money. Obviously, I tend to find those. But in my defense, we have the area surrounded. I do a pretty good job if you actually like zoom out and look at the overall strategy of play. So I had kind of outs there, but it really didn't matter, man, because when they did the face off, it wasn't just the size, which was really apparent, right? And that was another thing. This is where not just my biases, but my contrarian attitude really gets me in trouble. And forgive me, I'm just really trying to deconstruct, where I went wrong here. More so, believe it or not, even though I've got my pet peeves along with it, which is my contrarian nature. So like the narrative is like, and I'm already against the, I already feel like people put way too much into reach and size and this and that. And for a dude that was around like, the Brazil TNT on the mats era, the TRT era, you guys know what I'm talking about. Seeing steroid talk from those days, from the golden era, like it never matched then, It was like listening to like newbies come along who never saw, the band in their prime, and they're like, you kids don't know, man. You should have seen, probably a bad example, AFI or Metallica before they went, big, right? You should have, and Metallica was more speed and thrash, and AFI was more punk and hardcore, right? It's kind of like that. That's always kind of been my attitude that translates to the music scene perfectly to this, right? I'm like, oh, you kids should have seen it back in the before McGregor came around, the roids kids were on, And the Aldo post USADA thing, it was almost like a meme, right? But it was funny, like, from the gambling circles where those narratives are popular to analysts like myself who don't really pay attention, like everybody was saying it. And I didn't listen. And I saw it till it was kind of too late on the scales. And then here's the part B to where I knew. And again, this is not even like, the fight hasn't even started yet. And here's how Martinez is going to lose. And this is something that I wanted to bring up. And I should have gave more credence. Not only did I forget to bring it up, but part and parcel didn't give it enough credence, which is when going back to read a lot of my old Aldo writings, and a lot of it got confirmed when I went back to read, watch footage and put together a Southpaw report as far as his left-sided susceptibilities and other things that led me to the Martinez pick. And in his defense, outside of a check right hook that was actually having some surprising effect whenever Aldo was coming off of his knees. Which again, in my defense, I said Aldo's going to be more body work, knees, kicks, all that stuff is going to open up more. And the Southpaw report, as far as that goes, translated in my defense for what that's worth. And also, I guess in my defense, like when Martinez actually threw his freaking body kicks, when he remembered the back half, like he was hitting him clean. And you even hear commentary mention, like he's actually hitting him when he's going. And that was the annoying part. But by then, Aldo already had him dancing to his tune. And rounding my point back to part B before the fight, how you knew Aldo was going to win, because he already had him dancing to his tune. As I keep rounding the circle, and I always come out of the forest, I may run around in some circles. But as I've written about before, Aldo is, I call him a ruthless round-winning politician. And although no official round is going on when they're having the face-off, where I'm talking about, he's still the ruthless politician, right? And when I say ruthless round-winning politician, he's like, even if it wasn't an eye poke, he'll take the eye poke. He'll walk away in a way that convinces the ref to step in. He'll get his breaks. He'll take his beat. Because, again, Aldo, even in his prime, has always needed kind of his pockets to recoup. And he just knows how to play the rounds. He knows how to turn it up to impress the judges. He's working the ref. He's working the judges. He's working the crowd to a lesser extent. Aldo knows what he's doing. And the face-off, he just sunned him, He just did the classic. And this is another one, too, where they do the, my friend, my friend, my friend. That's a real classic. Not to stereotype like the Brazilians, but that's a real classic, like, disarming move. And not only is it, like, kind of disarming that as far as, like, a base move, you could see, like, anybody from entry level to veterans like Aldo do. But the way Aldo was doing it was more like, it was combo with like a sonning, like, oh, you're my son, like, it's okay, and I thought that was great. And I was actually worried because the first face-off, and this was what was annoying too, maybe I got this one wrong, because I barely do any analysis, obviously. I barely even watch much less do analysis, obviously, joking, about like face-offs or whatever. But the first face-off in the week, not the weigh-in one, the press conference one, from what I saw, Aldo got in his face. And then again, to like up the getting annoyed with Martinez just getting shade, right? Because again, Martinez has always gotten shade. He's gotten people will bring up mainly Andre Uhl, and they'll go even before that to Andre Sukumtat, who Andre Sukumtat, I definitely can't defend the fight IQ in certain fights. But outside of those moments, I would say, even though he wasn't able to put it together, was a better fighter than people gave him credit for. And that might not be the highest bar to clear, but I do stand by it, right? And that was kind of annoying on a smaller level, the Asian sensation there, Sukumtat. But then Martinez, who was actually a flyweight before, and you're reminded that he was a former flyweight in there with Aldo, right? But he was a flyweight before he went to the UFC and took that fight on short notice. Against Sukumtat, and it really just has nothing to do. It's so far back. So hearing people like say that was annoying, and then even analysis outside the fight, like back at the press conference when they were like, and this fucking Martinez guy's like getting in Aldo's face, and I'm like, dude, Aldo got in his face. And again, I'm glad. I'm hoping I'm wrong, and I'm glad regardless Aldo corrected himself, not just obviously in the fight, but before so, because I was like, oh crap, back to my canary in the coal mine, where like the Ronda Rousey home, where you see like people like kind of like uncharacteristically get in someone's face at the weigh-in, and then not only they lose in like a drastic fashion the next day. Like we've seen that happen, and I was like, oh shit, no Aldo, right? Even though I picked Martinez, I was like really worried for Aldo when I saw that. So then to hear everybody like, not only, I mean, maybe I got it wrong, folks, you guys weigh in, but I'm like, everyone was like, oh fuck Martinez, he's such an asshole. I'm like, the vote for Pedro, who's too shy to talk guy, and he's sure enough, he's there the next day just going like, I just want to live my dream like a little kid. And I was like, oh, how can you, he's definitely not. But then what crept into my head, I'm like, oh no, he might not be the person that everybody is making him out to be, both inside and out of the cage. But you know who Martinez is? The guy who's going to lose to Aldo. And sure enough, we saw Aldo beautifully conduct. I'm talking too much about it, so I want to parlay this into analysts who have broken it down. My guy Ghost Phantom does an excellent one with the those cartoon drawings, which I actually like because I'm sure it's a way to avoid copyright as well. But I actually like those because it really allows you to focus on technique for the technique nerds. So Ghost, keep those up if you can, no matter what kind of analysis you do or continue to evolve to do. My guy Ryan Wagner at Wag MMA, I think. I forget. I'll pull it up here. But he has a good one that I shared a link to his Patreon, because that's where you got to go to break things down without getting your account suspended. Which the same goes for, of course, one of my favorites as well. This podcast favorites as well. By the way, it's at Ryan A. Wag MMA. And of course, at Fenyo, at FENOX Sky, for an excellent breakdown and just really good recap podcast as well, which is what I love about the early prelim podcast, because you won't just talk about not just the prelims but the entire fight card, like a quick preview. Even on non-pay-per-view weeks, Fenyo will recap the card and preview other matchups that were made, and he does it all in 20% of the time that my long-winded ass does. So check that out if I'm not your flavor. No hate if I'm not, but at least do me the favor, and you don't want to give me the thumbs up or the listen. Cool. Go check out those people I just plugged. And apologies if I didn't plug anybody else. But yeah, shame on me ultimately. But again, just the extra pet peeve of is losing not enough? Is looking dumb not enough? Is the pain of picking against one of my guys and being wrong not enough? Do I have to watch one of my homies there? I don't even know John. I don't even care. And but I never thought he was gonna be a world champion or anything like that. But I just think he's a cool guy who just always got shade, whether he was a favorite. When the odds makers when people started coming around after cashing how many dog tickets on him, or should have cashed dog tickets in the Wool case, and then he is finally getting the respect he deserves, he still gets disrespected because he's like, Martinez shouldn't be favorite. He lost to Andre Wool every fucking time. Oh God. Oh. Fucking Christ. Alright, that's just super annoying. But not as annoying as me being dumb. Alessandro Pantoja defeated Steve Erceg. So this was kind of annoying too, because Ali Pantoja, if he doesn't finish him in the first two, it's probably going to decision, both with his trends. Or not probably going to decision, but he's probably not getting the finish, right? And then the question is, does it go to decision? If it does, it's probably a sketchy decision, right? Not just the whole Brazil thing or whatever, but even more so of a reason than the previous fight that I played for the round robin, right? So instead of getting sexy and putting rounds in, or probably should have put like maybe just a straight up Aldo decision in there. But instead for the co-main. But yeah, I put another split decision prop for the Usyk and Pantoja. And the annoying thing was, even though I scored it for Pantoja and have no issues for it being scored with Pantoja, I am absolutely, and not just for my bet, I'm absolutely sympathetic to the argument for Usyk, a scorecard out there for Usyk. And I agree with my guy Feño, who's saying it's not because of the elbows that people were making way too much of because of the cuts. Which I was glad, because I remember the two of Usyk's best elbows. I think the first one, Usyk lands a left hook after it that I actually scored more higher than the elbow. And Pantoja kind of no sells everything, which is part of the reason why the judges, as well as a lot of the Gen Pop, missed a lot of things. Shout out to Miguel Class, another guy who you should subscribe to his Patreon. Excellent analyst. I should have shouted him out earlier as well. Here's his shout out now for this, because he put a really good one on Usyk's counters, kind of his perspective there. And then, yeah, selfishly, it would have not just been justified, and God forbid be giving a counter striker some credit, and again, adding to my one of my many canaries in a coal mine that continue to get proven right in this space, counter strikes getting disrespected, right? Cheers to that. Oh, this is still somewhat warm. I'm sorry, I'm still pretty tired. Got more workouts in this week, which was nice. That helps the old mental health. But yeah, I did think Usyk was going to get better as the rounds went on, and then he actually made some crucial mistakes. Of course, you could argue that it was 2-2 going into that. And by the way, the second Usyk elbow, I was going to say, a Pantoja left hook lands. It was left hooks after the elbows. A Pantoja left hooks lands after the elbow, and I actually score that more. Because again, it's like, well, cuts. Not just my contrarian, or you want to think is a contrarian opinion. It's actually, within the judges' seminar, you have to know where the strike comes from, and you have to judge it accordingly. You have to know that, forehead slices and things like that, these things bleed a lot and often look worse than they are. You have to look at the impact. You know what I'm saying? Just like when, whether a strike looks big, like Dern and Tisha Torres. Oh, God, having to rewatch that again. We'll talk about that fight later. Torres coming up, and it's a big punch, go bang. It's like, okay, all right, relax. Rogan's going, right, okay, let's relax. Did it actually land? Okay, well, we can't have the benefit of replay for a judge, but what happened after that? If Torres was so rocked, she ends up winning the next two exchanges, and the next 5 to 6 strikes that are landed are all by Torres. I don't know how rocked she was by that, if she just continues on to outland her opponent like she was doing before, right? And same with blood. Like, okay, did you see where it came from? It could have been from a clash of heads, first of all, right? How many times has that happened? Okay, so it was from an elbow. You saw the elbow. You saw the point of contact. You can score it. You should score it. Absolutely. But again, it's not like a knockdown like people are talking about, Again, you could argue a well-landed left hook that gets their opponent to back up, gets in a back up / back off / opens a, momentum going back the other way after that left hook. You could very well score that more, and there are arguments for that with 2 left hooks from both sides right after the elbows. But yeah, Pantoja, if he wasn't just so immortal, maybe those little round flyers for insurance. Because again, I was respecting the Usyk side. That was kind of what those insurance flyers were, the 3, 4, and 5. But in my defense, or anybody that picked Pantoja or was citing Usyk's punching power, even though Pantoja no-sold it, he was in the press conference being like, dude, I really can't be taking these. Like, you could tell, like, the shots, like, made him think, for what that's worth. So anybody thinking that was a possibility, even though it didn't really show, you're also not that crazy. So, again, even though Pantoja's my guy, and I want to be like, stop disrespecting my Pantoja, I get it. But at the same time, I still feel like Pantoja, his ground and pound never gets talked about enough. Could he have done more at some parts? Yes, but at the same time, he was really smart with it too. Like toward the end of the rounds when he knew he wasn't going to be getting chokes, there wasn't going to be enough time to go for a submission. Like around the 15-second to 20-second marks, he's switching over to ground and pound. He was doing a lot of breaths and beat takes. Again, it may sound kind of wild, but he's a wild version of Jose Aldo as far as the cardio goes. Not comparing it to other parts of the game. As far as the cardio goes, he needs his pockets to recoup, and except he's wilder. So he really, we're really seeing where he's taking his breaks as he's participating now in extended 5-round fights. And it's just his optics, It's both getting tired, and then also when he does get cut, not only do we have, human nature, people are overvaluing that, and you got Dom Cruz doing his like passive aggressive thing, where he's like, okay, criteria. Well, if you say damage, well, I guess blood's damage. Like, it's like, like Ridley Scott with sorry, I've been watching Aliens lately. Like Ridley Scott, with is that the most recent one, the one that came after Prometheus. Like, oh, what, you didn't like Prometheus? Okay, well, here's your horror flick with Aliens, whatever, Annihilation. I'm probably thinking of Mortal Kombat or some shit, but whatever it was called. Sure, someone will correct me in there. The one with Michael Assender in there. But yeah, like, it's like anyways, losing the thread there. But yeah, Pantoja probably, back to the blood and cuts. Dom being passive aggressive. And then when he does get cut, he's like a cartoon character. Like, he tries to plug it like a hole. He's just like, I'm gonna try to plug it like this. And Pantoja will do this, and he'll like, he's trying to he's like, if I press it hard enough, it'll stop bleeding, Or maybe he's just trying to get the blood out of his eye. But again, the way he does it, like everything about him getting tired or cut, it's so bad optically. And it looks like someone's about, like, I think people think he's about to, like, start quitting or something and start doing that, because it looks like it kind of. He's like, ugh. And it was the same thing in the Brandon Moreno fight, one of the key rounds where I'm like, yeah, it's a slicing elbow, but, like, when I did my round breakdown, like, I break down a very clear argument for Pantoja. It's just that slicing elbow and the way he makes it look. It just looks like terrible optics. So, again, he's just, he didn't deserve to win this fight, and da-da-da-da. And I didn't hear it. I heard my guy Feño referencing DJ even shitting on Pantoja. I'm like, dude, what the fuck, man? Everybody's shitting on my guy. Win or lose, my guys seem to take shade. And, well, maybe because you're a fucking contrarian. That is part of it. But it's still annoying because these are good guys, and they're still in there doing their damn thing. Anthony Smith defeated Vitor Petrino. I was happy to be wrong on this one. I kind of wished... It's like, do I wish I did more tapes? I mean, there wasn't much to watch on Petrino and Smith. Smith at this point, and it was more just Smith's bad vibes, man. So somebody said it in a podcast I had playing in the background. I wish I could credit them. But who has worse vibes than Anthony Smith, right? And I'm an Anthony Smith fan. I'm not being disrespectful when I say that, but these interviews, I don't care. Oh, I fooled you guys last time. I barely even trained. I barely even been sparring for this fight. It's just like, and the inconsistent performances. So that was tough, but did see some homies cash on that. So I was really happy for my friends who were just smart enough and took the value, because there really wasn't anything to play on that. I had a little bit of Anthony Smith hit for the round robin, the hedge round robin, which had Brenner, Pichel, which weren't Brenner kind of was maybe close to the point. That fight kind of got wild, I guess, but Pichel, not close, didn't show up. Again, old guys just, Again, it's like, it's extra annoying. Sorry, not to go back to that, the co-main, but it's just like, betting against the old guy is a normal thing. So that's why it was just so crazy to see everybody who, like, crucifies me and or anybody on the old guy side just, like, so in. But it's just weird, man. I mean, that's just the GOATs, They come back from a layoff. Jones did. GSP did against Bisping. I was on the wrong side of that one, too. So if note this now, folks, if as tempted as I get to pick against Nunes, as much as I don't know where the fuck to go with either Kayla Harrison or Nunes, if Kayla brings Nunes out of retirement after like 2 years, right? Put the house on Nunes. Just put the house on fucking Nunes. And as I say that, watch, it's going to go... Anyways, I'm not even going to fucking touch it. I'll just let you guys deal with it. Anyways, yeah, so Anthony Smith hit, but it didn't really do anything for us. And it's tough because it's like, I don't always do 2 round robins, much less 2 5 legs. I mean, hell, originally my average was 1 4-leg round robin, right? I like the 5 legs if I've got the odds to justify it. And depending on what the card calls for, because there was just way too stacked of favorites, right? It was like, let's put the dogs in a reverse round robin. And even on a losing night, even on a super exposure of 2 5-leggers, a hedge round robin and a regular round robin, you know, and Poterier wasn't close. So nothing else was really close on this one. But it's hard not to justify playing it because, you know, we'll get to it. If one of the legs that was super, super duper insanely close, you had everything you could ask for going into round 2 for Uruguay, we would have that would have covered both the round robin's costs and then some, right? So it's like, how can I be that hard on myself for that, right? And this seems to be the case, as you guys know, every week it seems, right? Which is extra annoying. But yeah, Michel Pereira defeated Ihor Poterier. Whoever said this is already mad at me because I've already complained enough. But somebody said because I cashed Pereira by sub that I'm not allowed to complain for a month. And I'm just like, and I didn't want to be a dick because even then I'm just want to be a good winner. The night's not over, and I'm like, I'm grateful. I'm more grateful than most when it comes to cashing these bets. And I said so even before this comment came in, right? Great as always, right? Just like one of the few guys who says, I actually hope that person's okay who gets KO'd, you know. Someone's like, you're not allowed to complain for a month now. And I'm like, I get it. I get it. Dan Tom complains a lot. Okay, I get it just from like that reductive point of view. But again, look at my fucking record. You know, even forget about my record. Forget about the insane luck that I just cited, that I keep an open challenge for anybody to challenge that I've cited going back to 2020. Let's just look at just this year. Look at just the 12 in a row losing streak. That would break any man, right? Fucking crush any soul. 12 in a row like that. Motherfucker, I lost the night anyways. And even if I did win this night, and even if I did win it big, I can still fucking complain, and I still got plenty big nights coming for me because I could have 6 or 7 big nights in a row full of cashes like I had with Pereira and Poterier. And guess what? If anybody in this gambling space can show me the receipts that deserves it more than me as far as breaks and variants go, I open that door too. Because even if I go big on the next 6 nights, or 6 events in a row, that doesn't even make up for it. And you can never make up for it. There is no such thing as fair in life, much less in this game. But I'm not talking about fair. I'm not talking about half my bets. I'm not talking about a quarter of my bets. I'm talking about 20% of what my bets. No, not even that. 20% of these hits that air quote should have hit. We don't have to get into it, but I have a long list of them that we go over. You know, it's crazy. You know, the crazy weird ones. Just give me 20% of those. Not 20% of my bets. Just 20% of the really me in the ass, right? Give me 20% of those. That's all I want. Because even then, I'll be profitable with the way I bet and the odds that I bet. So that's kind of the annoying part about that. But yes. Okay. Yeah, this is one of the times that I can count on one hand since 2020 where I guess I got away with one. But it's like, I got away with one in the sense that people that were getting mad that it was a foul, that people were overlooking it because it was cool, I absolutely understand. I don't disagree with you. That's not what I'm upset about. That's not what what I'm defending, right? Or nor what I was worried about. What it was, you know, if you want to say that, okay, I cashed a bet where a fighter fouled and won, like, okay, I guess I got away with one. But then how many bets does that count for not just me, but all of us? Because let's face it, how many fighters foul and win in MMA? It's like, you know, granted, there are certain like egregiousnesses. He could have been concussed from the shin that I do believe hit him in the head, by the way. I'm not even like trying to be like truther and be like, oh, well, maybe the fight. Like, no, I do think it hit in the head. I do think people are making, again, a valid point that are complaining. But here's my thing. It's not that there was, even though he could have been concussed, it's not that there was multiple position change and the fight finished in technically a different phase, right? Standing against the cage in a guillotine, as opposed to the north-south landing on the floor. Perpendicular, whatever the word I'm searching here for is. Sorry, I have no sleep here. Aside from that flimsy argument, as it may be, right? My issue is not this semantics on whether or not he hit him. My issue is that same with the Dawkins Kevin Holland, where I had Dawkins by submission, and they let Kevin Holland get knocked out, brought back to life, out on his feet. and then get choked out unconscious before he even knows what's going on because he's still concussed from the initial knockout, before they want to go and air quote, do the right thing and stop it and do, the last minute thing. And whenever we've had these weird things, even dating back to, albeit a different circumstance, but a same thing where they're kind of doing that post thing where they're like, they've got the decision, and then both these times I think was Dan Miragliotta, and both the times I think the check-in senior official was Herb Dean. It was Dan, and kind of, and I remember losing the Masasi to Weidman bet, going all the way back, right, like over half a decade for that reference, back to the Dawkins Holland one. There was one recently that this happened as well, that was on the wrong end of, where they let it happen, and I that one was actually, I think, also a Dan Miragliotta as ref, oddly enough. So yeah, like, again, there's definitely an argument for maybe I was due to finally be on the right side of a call, much less this specific call that I've been on the wrong end of for over a half a decade. And so that's kind of my issue, and we saw them that's right, Dan Miragliotta, Weidman versus Silva, the New Jersey card, where they retroactively did it to save their ass, to save their ass with a technical decision, so it screwed, inside the distance bettors, round 3 bettors, and again, even though Silva, Weidman, I got that was one of the times where I got screwed again, betting against the vet, betting against the, and then they come in this post-USADA era, and I'm like, how did I miss this spot, right? And that being said, I probably still should have cashed it because it was eye poke city, and Silva should have won by DQ. The best way they could have saved it was a no contest, but they just kind of showed their ass, showing their interest, which is not fighter safety, but protecting their own, which Mike Mazzulli, New Jersey head, I'm not even stealing. That's the words right out of the horse's motherfucking mouth. We protect our own. He repeated it a whole lot when I was at his seminar. So yeah. Oh, I got one on a losing night. But I guess I'm gonna fucking complain about it. How about that? There's some context for you. So even though I cashed that, I'm like pissed off just talking about it now because I'm like, And I have to still, all these gray hairs come from. I still have to go through the stress of like, all the PTSD, right? Because again, I've always been on the wrong side of it. So I finally am on the right side, and people come at me, oh, now you can't complain, Dan. Like, the night's not over, fucker. And even if it is, who's got the context of evidence on their side? Me. Who's got the receipts? Me. I gotta agree with you. You don't gotta like it. You can change the channel. Fuck it. I'm not talking out of my ass for no reason, though. Kyle Bahayo defeated Paul Craig. Wasn't as weird of a fight as I thought. He just kind of dismantled Craig. So good on him. Joanderson Brito defeated Jack Shore. Okay. Oh, Dan, you got lucky on another one. It's like, okay, again. By the way, again, just like people complaining, calling it a foul, I ain't disagreeing with that one. People complaining about this being a weird stoppage. I agree. It was a weird freaking stoppage. Maybe I would have definitely been more mad about it if I was on the Jack Shore side. However, to be fair, and I'm not saying this makes it right, but it felt like it was kind of one-way traffic. Brito was controlling that fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, you never know what could happen, and I'm always good about saying that. So I want to make sure I keep that same energy here. That being said, gun to my head, I mean, if I'm making live betting odds, and you guys are we not? Making Brito, -3 to 1 on the live line or something, as that fight progresses. I feel like that's pretty conservative to say and not too unfair. And again, secondly, it's like, A, my ass still lost for anybody giving me shit on that one. And B, okay, I cashed 2 bet, even though it wasn't like a prop bet or anything. Brito was just a parlay leg, right? We cashed the parlay, granted. But it's like, okay, I cashed 2 bets that I got lucky on, and I somehow still don't come out in the black. How lucky am I, really? You know what I'm saying? So I am, air quotes, getting lucky, and I'm still, so where's the dunk at? So not that person or people are trying to dunk on me for that, but in my defense here, it's like, and just to stay consistent, to show you guys that I'm not complaining, it just fucking continually fucking happens. Even the times I see some of this variance, it's like, am I really seeing it? Sorry, I'm fucking complaining way too much. Yasmin Lucindo defeated Karolina Kowalkiewicz. McDevick, defeated Elvis Brenner. Oh my gosh, I swear. even though I'm really good with these round props, it's like I feel like anytime like like again, Elvis Brenner had a bad weight cut, death's door, and I was already looking at Oral by round 2 with the way they matched up, and I'm like, and then when I saw the weight cut, I'm like, oh yeah, I hit the round 2 hard, put it in the round robin, put a half a unit on that sucker, right? Didn't even mess with round 3, it was just round 2, and he's almost finishing him in round 1. You got the bad weight cut, you got pretty much everything you could have, the humidity, the high temperature of both the emotion in the stadium and the literal temperature, everything you could ask for a round 2 better. And those are always the worst, it seems, at least for me. Granted, I don't want to mention, the LUCK, but yeah, at least for me, it just seems like that, because man, it seemed like that was going to cash. I was just counting my money. I mean, that was like, because, that's like that was a half unit there, plus, it was like 6, it was, or not half unit, it was 5 units for Oral by round 2 or whatever I would have cashed. And then I had the Oral by, it was like plus 700 something, tied in with the Pereira sub plus 350 for 17 ducats. That would have paid 6.33 units. So it was over $1,000. So again, it was an honest deal. It wasn't like anything like, I can complain about or anything like that. It just was one of those, just I could taste it, the analysis was there sort of things. And again, people want to talk about variance going my way. It's like, no, that's the variance I could use going my way. The variance that actually pays. The variance that actually gets me in the black, God forbid. So that was a tough pill to swallow. Jakar Close defeated Joaquim Silva. Seemed like a pretty decent fight from what I remember. This was dead in the water. The only dog that I picked. I had to play him somehow. I'm glad I only put him in the round robin, malarkey. And unfortunately for Ted Danson's bastard, they sent him down to Brazil for a reason. And Ruffy looked good. Shout out to my guy Feño again, who said it right. He added jabs and leg kicks, and really pulled his kind of opportunistic game together. He was a Conor McGregor clone, so I was laughing like that. Like people were making that comparison into this fight because he's been really open. Like he's clearly one of the dudes that just from Basharat to O'Malley to all these different guys that kind of have that. You could tell they watched McGregor coming up. He definitely has that. I will say though, he does imitate, which is great, and I try to do the same also just because I have a terrible gait for my kicks. And I'm trying to fix right now. That's why I'm going really slow on a lot of the pad work that you see. But he's got that Poetan kind of leg kick, which is really nice. It's kind of it fits his jank and feeds right into counters, and he's more of a counter fighter. Shouts to anybody that gets this, but like with everybody doing like some kind of gimmick or imitation, the gimmicking and the mimicking is so strong on the Fight Nerds team. How is Marcus Perez Maluco? How is that guy not I know he's not in the UFC anymore, but how is that guy not like a Fighting Nerds fighter, right? Like he seems like he would fit that bill. Deanne Barbosa defeated Ernesta Carrasqueta. Didn't really watch that one. Bonfim defeated Pichel. Watched that one, and it seemed like it was a measured performance from Bonfim. Pichel performance aside. Alejandro Costa looked like a beast, defeated Kevin Borjas. I wish I took that. That just made sense. But I respected Borjas a lot from his fight with Van, and then also with everything else in that card. It just took forever for me to get to the bottom. Again, I got to go from head to toe with my prioritization. And so those really get annoying with me, especially when I end up on a losing night. Not that I probably would have only bet, to win a unit for that fight, just on the money line. So it wouldn't have made a difference. But, money on the table. Money on the table that I felt I left. Sorry for the super long recap there. We'll try to get it shorter for the rest of the breakdown. All right, 48. I'm going to go to you guys here in the chat. I'll try to pay you guys off real quick. And we'll get to the breakdown here. Disrespected. Jiu-jitsu. Synchro Wing. What's up, Synchro Wing? The best in the biz. Dan, you are awesome for breaking down a mid-card like this. God forbid we have flyweights as a main event. I know what you mean, and I'm sure people are waiting for me to actually break down the card finally. So apologies to you guys. I'll be getting to it. Just want to pay my respects to the chat. Jimmy Kudo. Pantoja versus Ursig. Is that a situation where you called the analysis and got the bet correct? No, I got the bet incorrect, but the analysis wasn't terrible. I told you guys about Ursik's folding elbows. I told you guys about Pantoja's both radar for knees, and he actually would be the better person with the knees. And I feel like you can make both the arguments each way, right? So, for what it's worth, the analysis was on point, I guess. Rhea says in Truesdale, when you do southpaw reports, do you also account switch hitter looks as they go in from ortho to southpaw? Yeah, I try to do as much as I can. Sometimes I'll outright list them, or I'll include it as well in the sample, like I did with the Carlos Diego Fajeda one, which is up. I'll get you the rest of the southpaw report within 24 hours of this recording going up. I just didn't have time. Jin Karasu, what do you think of MMA bettors who don't third-party track like yourself, then post fake slips and say they're making money? That's tough. I used to be annoyed with third-party tracking people and this and that, but I get it, even though that can still be fuckery too, so don't get fooled by that. There's fuckery there too, folks. That being said, I feel like it does give you more information, or at least like list your unit sizes. I know people seem to get frustrated, and I used to do these things too, so I'm not throwing shade. It took me a while to evolve. So I'm speaking to myself here as well, but I just noticed people tend to get mad at that. So that's why I'm really particular. I list everything from I've tracked my unit sizes to all that stuff. I've also listed it before, to be fair, but third party tracking in particular, not just my tracking. Let's see here. Ghost Phantom, not picking Jose Aldo is all good for me. In my opinion, that fight was fantastic. Good looks from both Martinez and Aldo. The left side attacks were evident, and Aldo's body work was fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. In my defense, the analysis wasn't that crazy as much as I feel like my ass is just completely shown. Synchro Wing, I feel Martinez is the type of fighter that all should try and emulate. He has really good everywhere. Changing levels is good. Yeah, it's just his boxing. I think that definitely got brought up. Something I didn't mention enough of. I mentioned Jose Aldo's high guard for Martinez's body shots, but I didn't mention enough of Martinez's high guard, and Jose Aldo conducted so beautifully off that. And again, go to the breakdowns I referenced to see more on that. James Kendrick, you mentioned the Andre Uhl robbery. Remember the Dern versus Torres robbery? Oh yeah, we just went over that one. He also adds, who may I remind everyone Tisha's fighting again this week, so we know she's not getting stopped. Yeah. Phantom Punch, Ghost Phantom, that means that Dan is about the cartoons. I'm glad that actually helps focus on the techniques itself. Yeah, you do excellent work, Ghost. Thank you. Rios is in Truesdale. Hey, Ryan Wags, Fanyo, and Ghost, all good shouts. Absolutely they are. Jimmy Kudo, I'm sub to Miguel's Patreon. Very good stuff from him. Oh, great choice, Jimmy. Great choice. Miguel's the man. Jimmy Kudo, speaking of Ursig, do you like that look where he lands the elbow, not only against Pantoja's left hook, but against his level change? Yeah, man, he's really got a real good feel for that. Aaron B., I interviewed Tisha this week and mentioned how angry the Dern decision makes you. It makes her angry, too. Much love. Oh, it makes me feel... Okay. But on Stetch, as they call him in Brazil, my man... I love you, Aaron. Definitely going to give Tisha a shout later in this breakdown coming up here in a second. Finish these up. Jin Karasu, is that Aaron Bronstetter? You're the man. Much respect to the work you do. Aaron Bronstetter is the freaking man. I missed his podcast, but he is on to bigger, better things, and there may be more programmings in his future. But whatever Aaron does, with whoever he does it with, is always worth the watch. So please support that guy any way you can. And give him love from the show. Ghost Phantom, Aaron B., awesome work with that TKO thread, all the hard work you do. Rain Lamina, like we say on Jack Slack podcast comment section, don't be silly, jump the gilly. D-Love in the house, 007. My guy Dan Tom, looking good, about thank you, sir. Good to see you in here. Ehor Pateria, get the cans ready. Throw the cans, Ehor. You guys made me laugh so hard with that. I love you guys so much. The duelist has perished and lost the most wacky way. That's right. By the way, how did you like the Carolina embedded thumbnail? More than I care to admit, because I'm already creepy enough on here. Darren V, thanks, Jen. Thanks, fan. Appreciate that. James Kendrick, hey, Aaron, actually watching your... Okay, you guys are giving love to Aaron. It's good. He deserves it. I asked this on Sound and Pound. Do you feel bad for Paul Craig? His game plan is to lose, then win, but then he fights competent opponents and just loses. Yeah, I feel like he's fighting the wrong divisions, because the guy in the main event we're about to talk about, Derek Lewis, does that, but he's at heavyweight where you can get away with that more, and Craig could get away with it more at light heavyweight, like my guy Aaron B. smartly pointed out, because he has excellent analysis, not just being a good journalist. And I agree with him on that point. F. Ehor, James Kendrick. All right. F me for taking this long to get to the breakdown. UFC 54-20. All right. UFC Fight Night. Lewis versus Nascimento. UFC on ESPN 56. UFC St. Louis, baby. All right. Derek Lewis, like we just mentioned, he's headlining the card because heavyweights. Why not? I mean, at least it's not Jersey. Jersey is going to kill me. Keep mentioning and throwing shade at him. He's hitting strays on the PYN. He's getting more strays than Ehor on this podcast. We got Derek Lewis minus 162. The comeback on Rodrigo Nascimento. Plus 136. I don't know if my breakdown is out on MMA Junkie now. My in-depth one, but I submitted that in the video earlier this week. And basically, Nascimento, he has some things to like as a heavyweight, but ultimately, he lacks the explosive finish on his shots. He can shoot, but his finishing, his most explosive shots when he needs to be are reactive ones, doubles, but they're not as. Not that his doubles against the cage are high percentage, but they're not as high a percentage as his doubles against the cage, because when he's first to shoot in the open, his finishing isn't great. His chaining, he can't chain to the 1 to the 2. From the clinch, he can chain maybe from a 1 to a 2, like a clinch to a single snap down, right? But that's like a 1-2 chain. But it's not like a 2 or 3 chain with the explosivity that we saw someone like Jailman, who Jailman is smaller than Nascimento, was able to do. Jailman also longer than taller than Nascimento. Nascimento 6'2", Jailman was 6'4", I believe. Don't have the reaches offhand as far as the Jailman's reach, but Nascimento, I believe, is 80 inches offhand, whereas Lewis, I believe, 79. Lewis will have an inch taller. Those things aren't really measurable, both on paper nor by my style of analysis. I don't feel that it's too relevant here. And, as far as fighters trying to grapple Lewis, like the great Brian Stan said, unless you're Daniel Cormier, everyone who grappled Lewis lost. And then Sergey Spivak kind of shucked that trend, bucked that trend, right? Only to freeze up for Cyril Gane, making me look real dumb for that pick. Again, picking for Gane or against Gane. Maybe I'm going to have to put him on the Charles Johnson no bet list, which we'll get to on that fight. I mean, spoiler alert. Do not bet list. But yeah, and then of course it was the Jailman in a fight that I feel like I watched that again. I'm sorry, folks. I was officially off of that fight or whatever, but I told you guys I stopped by my book and they fucked up. And I think Almeida, it was like, I don't know if it was minus 125. I feel like that was too short. I feel like it was almost like minus 200 was the sub price, right? It was definitely chalk, but I do think it was like nearly minus 200, right? Which actually would be correct. The way you line that fight stylistically, plus short notice for Lewis, right? And for whatever reason, the book that I went to, they had it listed, they fucked up, and I think they had like plus 500. And I had slips. I showed it to like my guy AB. Shout out to the Catch Side Judges podcast, Danny Herbs. I think I showed him the slip, so people can vouch for me here, but I had a plus 500 there, right? And it would have been perfect to track for me to cash, because not only karmically would it just been like a penny dropping to the overdue balance that I'm due, but it also would have been a classic, Dan Tom frustration where I would win but still kind of lose because I couldn't give credit for it because I didn't tweet it out. It wouldn't have been able to go on the official record, right, or anything like that, but it would have at least been something. It would have been something, a nice little. And then sure enough, the fix was in. Oh my gosh! I mean, how did they not invest? I love Jailman. I don't want to tweet anything about it because he follows me. I don't need Mahadinho knocking on my door. By the way, I don't know what Mahadinho is, but it sounds massive. I don't need that guy knocking on my door. The front door of the bed. You know what I'm saying? Easy then, come on. But yeah, like something was up on that one, man. Like how? Like he looked like he was just like. Someone had the decision bet, like, holy crap, that was crazy. That was crazy. What was also crazy looking back at it, and I'm curious to see what Derek Lewis looks like this time, because, I've not been one to buy that Derek Lewis's trim, and he's taking his condition seriously, because it doesn't really seem like, even when he's, like, having back problems, he's still, win or losing, winning against Dagestani Randy Couture, Shamil Abdurakhimov, or losing late into the fight against, like, Mark Hunt. Like, he's still going late into the fight, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know how much that really is, but it was weird that he looked in great shape. I didn't realize how good a shape he looked in, for Derek Lewis at least. Great shape, I should say. Caveat, heavyweight, great shape, but he looked in great shape in that last fight. And he's actually going to have a full camp on this one. He's got the main event spot again. I don't know, this just feels like it's, I know it's heavyweight, I know it's volatile, but this just feels like it's Lewis because, again, those not only, back to my original point that fighters who usually try to grapple him tend to lose. And even though Nascimento is one of the few competent heavyweight back takers, not his second fight with Don'Tale Mayes, but his first fight with Mayes turtles. And he actually hits a very smooth, again, for heavyweight, a very smooth back take and RNC in the turtle position. Now, Mayes isn't as good as turtling as Derek Lewis. He's not as explosive, nor did he have as steep of the ski slope angle that I talk about to make them slide off the front, especially big heavyweights, right? Like Nascimento. But we've seen Nascimento in other positions. He wasn't able to replicate that later. The quote-unquote better version of himself last time out. Which isn't completely fair. Obviously, no fights ever go the same in MMA, but, he wasn't able to replicate that. And if you go to other fights, even against guys like, Tanner Bozier, who aren't as big or aren't as accoladed in the grappling, guys who could kind of just decently scramble, were able to, or maybe smaller heavyweights as well, like Chris Daukaus, who ended up going down to light heavyweight as well, right? To lesser success, but whatever. He was that size. And you see before even the knockout on the feet, he actually lands a lot of ground and pound. Like, Nascimento, whether it's even his defensive guard, where he was kind of in defense mode, trying to kind of recover from a lesser shot before that final flurry from Daukaus, even then just wasn't very good, and I don't think his game's really that great off the bottom. I don't think he has great ground and pound. Nascimento has I always say, like, whether it's from Aldo, or we'll talk about the Caceres matchup. When I say people have a disproportionate habit of eating lefts, that can vary, and I have a weird theory that maybe just because, from the old street fight mentality, what's this guy going to throw at me if I have to bet to be ready for one thing? The favorite is going to be the right hand, the overhand right, or the right hook, or some kind of a right hand, right? So I feel like from that basic bro science-y hypotheses to a well-trained fighter, I just feel like your radar naturally for a lot of people focuses on the power side because that's what they're more worried about. It's called the power side, right, for a reason. So if you are savvy with your lead hand, and then especially in MMA where not a lot of people are savvy with their lead hand, it just seems to pay massive dividends. So perhaps it's not a surprise when I say someone is more susceptible to left hands than the right. That being said, if we made it a spectrum to where, like, you put a guy in Aldo, like, at the bottom because it's like, yeah, he's more susceptible to left hands, but I mean, we're splitting hairs and it's Jose fucking Aldo, right? So you maybe put him on the more fair, nicer end of the spectrum, but on the much more crueler, pronounced end of the spectrum, I actually would put Rodrigo Nascimento. It was insane. It's like a literal, I wrote 8-2 to 9-1 as far as what's landing on him. Whether it's on the ground, in the clinch, off the brakes, at space, punches, kicks, left. Now, luckily for him, Lewis is a right-handed happy fighter. Now, that doesn't really matter when you're punching off the break or the ground and pound equations. But as far as that space goes, right? Although I will say it kicks. Lewis does have a sneaky knees and sneaky left high switch kicks, whether he's jumping or not, right? So, low percentage, granted, but Lewis is crazy. He will throw shit like that, right? So, there's that. So, yeah, and as far as knockouts coming back the other way, I talked about the grappling, the lack of athleticism, and how I think Nascimento stacks up there. I think he kills himself. The harder he sells out, the worse it is for him if he doesn't get the finish. In other words, for grappling, as far as striking goes, he's got a decent left hand, a lead hand in his defense. He's got a really accurate uppercut that he has a knack for finding. He's got deceptive kicks that he doesn't throw that often, whether it's the leg kick from the rear, but a deceptively fast switch kick. I don't think he's the fastest heavyweight like he gets advertised for, and I think that speed comes and goes for what it is. It's a deceptive speed. I think he moves deceptively well. But just like the lacking that athletic umph and drive and explosion to reliably get, not that he can't get Lewis down, but to reliably get him down, reliably, repeatedly, I'm not seeing that power and explosion in the punches either as far as those go, because it's taken really athletic punchers. It's both a mixture of good strikers and like crazy knockout strikers, right? Like Matt Mitrione, maybe the least talented guy to be. And I remember cashing a plus 350 back then. You know, that was when Derek Lewis was just coming into the organization, and he was getting like way too much hype. And I'm like, no. Mitrione's been working with Ray Sefo, southpaw, athlete. You know, Mark Hunt, athlete. Sean Jordan, again, that was an earlier one, not so much skill, but obviously explosive, undeniable athlete. You know, the guy might have been portly, but he could do backflips, like spinning hook kicks. He did the sweet chin music to Derek Lewis. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be like that level of athlete. So it's heavyweight, it's MMA. Nascimento could win. I definitely don't want to, sound too confident on MMA chalk, much less heavyweight chalk, much less Derek Lewis chalk. But this seems like the fights that Derek Lewis wins pretty reliably, and I feel like the market tends to know that. So even though the money line's close enough for chalk, and I hate spending chalk on a prop, so it's like, why not kick for coverage? At the same time, Derek Lewis's win conditions is one of the more reliable single win conditions, so I actually laid the chalk here. I have a house that offers it at minus 135. I actually could get the better line, but I actually have decent bankrolls in 2 of the 3 houses, but one of my houses is running low right now. Surprise, surprise. Like, they should all be running low, to be honest. You'd think. One of them's running low right now, and that's the one with like the good line for minus 135. And as much as I want to fucking just, who would know? But no, man, you can audit me at any time. You will see the bet for the exact amount, the exact line in my account that I claim. And I just took a worse line at minus 145 because I could afford to take it more. And also because the house that's lower in my funds is the one where I do my majority of my round robins from. So that's kind of where that pool kind of is dedicated to, so to speak, which is also why it's kind of different than the other pools, where the other pools kind of stay together. Anyways, TMI for you guys. But yeah, I took Derek. I did 1.5 units. I know I hate having stuff on the co-main and main, but this is the way it's gonna look probably. But yeah, I pretty much have 2 units divvied out on both the main and co-main. And this one I got 1.5 on Derek Lewis by KO, minus 145, so just a return north of a unit. And I put a half a unit on Derek Lewis round 2 KO, plus 650. You should be able to get it for north of plus 500. I know Derek Lewis says he wants a round 1 TKO. He's gotten plenty of them before. But he's gotten plenty of round 2s and round 3s because he's a guy who loses until he wins. So with that dynamic, and with everything being juiced up because he is such a fighter where his win condition, to where even where he's a dog, like, you're going to see those weird things where the money line and the KO line are always pretty much the same with Derek Lewis, whether it's chalk or plus money, right? One of the ways I like to play him is round 2, and I really had a great feeling. I thought it was money plus 1,000. I emptied on it against Rogerio de Lima, and that was just like of course, Rogerio de Lima goes like back to his quitting that I've been banking and losing money on. That I banked like the first half of his UFC career, and then I've been paying for it because it was just like too good to be true, in the second half, because the guy moved up to heavyweight where nobody could grapple again, right? So I was losing money on de Lima, but then his quitting ways came right back to life with a big scary Derek Lewis flying knee, right? Low percentages it did, like I said, it still works. And of course the guy quits in round 1. We're just like, fucking really. But round 2 is the sneaky way to play Derek Lewis. Round 2. Cashed it before, cashed the KO before. Remember Curtis Blades? That was a one where not many people were backing Derek Lewis there, but your boy was, and we're gonna go with Derek Lewis here for much worse odds. But also I would argue, no offense to Rodrigo, a worse fighter. So yeah, Derek Lewis round 2 KO and Derek Lewis by KO. To kick for coverage there. Co-main event time, Joaquin Buckley minus 130. Nursultan Touchaboev. Sorry, Ribovics-McKinney, sorry. Touchaboev, why is he Touchaboev? So, I got a dark places, sorry. I take that one as a dark place. But yeah, so this one is interesting because it's a kind of an impromptu fight, but it's more impromptu for, Ribovics, who was asking for a June fight, and he's getting a fight a whole month earlier than what he was asking for. And he's having to drop down an entire weight class. Whereas Buckley, who, he's had mixed results, but he's had a career of taking impromptu fights. He's very comfortable. He is a performer, right? We've seen him. He can take fights on short notice. He can go to the beach club before his last fight. It was just a big fight. And, granted, not taking anything away from Buckley. Luque that was a quit job, right? Which kind of makes me worried here on where I'm going with this fight because am I overcorrecting? Because, and that's going to be extra painful, right? Where, again, I bet the veteran didn't get burned. You wonder why? Because these veterans keep getting burned. They show up. They're either old and they barely fight or they quit outright, right? We mentioned one from the card before the co-main event, and then this one. It's just like, so you can see why, Dan Tom finally goes and he finally gets it with the program and picks against the veteran. And of course, he picked against the fucking wrong veteran. Stupid ass. I know I'm still super Asian of me. I'm dwelling over losing $1 over here, the way I'm beating myself up over this one. But yeah, man, as far as, Buckley beating Luque, I want to be careful not to overvalue that one. That being said, Buckley, as I did credit in that breakdown, he had been showing improvements. Now, there are moments, I think it's like 2 minutes and 30 seconds exactly into round one, where if Luque wasn't more shot, like there is a point where Buckley kind of reverts into his old habits and he does the linear leap forward and he plants and he's just right there to dip into a kick, dip into a knee, or hit a right hand right down the pike or an uppercut, all of which Ribovics will throw because he's just a right-handed happy guy, and he's even more so that opportunist in the open stance matchup, of course, because he's that typical where he forgets about the jab and all those things, right? I mean, hell, if Aldo's not going to jab as much in the open stance matchups, folks, what hope do we have for any other fighters? As good as Aldo is and as good as he looked, right? If he's not gonna jab, like I said, again, I did call his Arsenal shot selection. It's actually kind of more entertaining. But yeah, man, it's hard to count on people to jab in those open stances. I don't expect Ribovics to do it. He's going to be mainly focused on making weight because he hasn't made this weight in over 3 years, probably 3.5 years, January of 2021. And more interestingly enough, so Ribovics, I really wasn't impressed with him. I'm glad he's working with Marquez MMA, but I don't know how much he's been able to work with him since this is his first camp and it's a shortened camp. But it is a ground camp with a lot of good wrestlers and jiu-jitsu people because that's what he needs. Everyone wants to, he fights for Russian promotions. He's Uzbek. So people are going to associate, him with the dead animal hat wearers, that he's going to just be like a Khabib or something. The guy, even though he has submissions on his record, the guy is not good on the ground. He's poor fight IQ, poor wrestling, submission over position. Now, a lot of these are older sample sizes against terrible fighters, but they're against terrible fighters, And he's going to draws. He's like 7 of his 8 losses, and his draw are to southpaw are to welterweights, and then his draw is to a southpaw welterweight. Again, all kind of relevant to this welterweight match against a southpaw here. So he doesn't even have a really good record at that weight class when he can make it. He's also not just 6'5", but he's 30. Now, he's not 31 or 32, or maybe I would even want to empty the bank further here, but he's 30. So once you're getting into your 30s, those big weight cuts, especially when you're a long, lanky guy, I say long, lanky, lighter weight classes. Okay, 170, not the lighter weight classes, but he's a long, lanky guy, right? And when you from 155 to 185, when you're a long, lanky guy, whether or not you want to count those the lighter weight classes, but from the Corey Hills and the Anderson Silvas, again, that's where also you see trouble happening even when they do make the weight. Not that I'm calling for that to happen. I'm more just worried about Ribovics making the weight in this fight even happening. Although from the Buckley end, he sounds like he's down and mentally prepared, which is good. He has mixed success against bigger guys. He's got some knockouts there, but he's also got some losses, again, because he's having to do his kind of, it really pronounces his problem with that lunge that's got him caught with both the DiChirico and his other loss there, the Kevin Holland loss as well. Both those are going to be replicable. The head kick, you see in the southpaw report that I put out with Ribovics that he throws, that he actually throws a really wicked whipping one. And then, of course, his opportunistic right hand. So that's going to be there, but I honestly believe that if he doesn't get it in round one, his winning conditions are way down, especially with the weight cut intangibles at play. Buckley is a majority of his finishes in round 2, but I think round 3 is going to be particularly live, especially if Buckley is slowing this fight down and mixing in wrestling, which I wouldn't put past. He's done to diffuse against smaller, against both powerful punchers and long guys. That's when you'll see Buckley kind of mixed that in, so I wouldn't be surprised, if he wants to get in close with Touchaboev there. But no, honestly, Ribovics-McKinney, I don't know how much he's gonna have learned from there, or be able to dissuade if Buckley does want to do that. But I think the Buckley right hooks, shots coming in and out of the breaks, still going to be lively for him. So I took Buckley here at the money line. I think he opened it in the minus 140s or something like that, I want to say. Let's see what he opened at. Yeah, minus 148, pretty much minus 150. I got him at minus 129, which I couldn't really say no to that number. That's playable chalk for me, close enough, not to even, to where I would call it even. Obviously, it's a slight favorite. It's minus 129. But still a good favorite number. So, again, another 1.5 on that. So, it's basically like having 1.5 units on both favorite money lines in the main and co-main event. I'm on the Lewis KO prop, but that's basically like Lewis's money line. And then what I also did was I also played Buckley round 2 and 3. Let me see what rounds I got on that for you guys. I forget what numbers. Shit. But yeah, I put 25 ducats on round 2, 25 ducats on round 3 to make, again, back to that 2 unit as promised exposure for both the main and co-main. Is it? They weren't like too crazy because, again, Ribovics-McKinney, they're expecting him to fade out. It's pretty nerfed, but again, this dynamic. We're going to see it again. You guys can guess which one I'm going to play. It'll probably be on the prop squad because it's a bit higher odds and more, arguably even more pronounced, that dynamic on paper. But yeah, you know me, I love, Joaquin Buckley is not necessarily a builder, but we got the fade spot at least for the first round finisher here in full effect, right? So yeah, I think plus 550 wasn't the great odds on round 2 KO and plus 750 on round 3 KO. So perhaps some extra units there if he wins inside. Otherwise, it's around just short of a unit profit if he wins by decision there in his hometown. All right, Alonzo Menifield plus 215. Carlos Ulberg, Fantasy Jewish Fight League. Ulberg. Sorry. Oh man. All right. If only this fight was playable. At least to me, I don't know. You guys might feel different. Menifield is live. I'm not going to deny that, especially at over 2-1. I don't mind anybody taking a small stab on him. I just don't know how too confident you want to be on either side. It's like Menifield is shown to improve his wrestling. Pat Barry and him actually is a good combo, right? Say what you will about Predator Pat, but the Predator Pat's open mat, it's serving Menifield well. He's improving his wrestling. But then again, Ulberg, he's showing that he can improve his submission. Sorry. Sorry, it's dark times, but I guess I still got to try to make my jokes there. Oh, poor Da and Jung. But yeah, he showed his submission against old Da and Jung the last time out. However, it's the left hook that's always been the read, So this is interesting because Menifield's improved, but prior I've had really good reads on him. I didn't just hit, who was it? Menifield. The left hook is basically the read here. Ulberg's got a really good left hook. And not only did I pick OSP, Tennessee, OSP, but I particularly picked OSP by left hook, right? Which is what led me to pick the incorrect Jamal Hill pick. But again, having those left hook reads led me sticking with that analysis, even though it didn't pan out, paid off way down the road, granted, but against Poatan Pereira. So, the little left hook connecting lineage tree there of reads, confirming as you will. Which fight was it? Boom. We cashed the Thick Willie one, which was sketchy as fuck, I will admit that. Yeah, but it was more the OSP fight I was thinking of, sorry. And Ulberg's got an excellent left hook. It's like Could he get a club and sub? Because his fight's weird, and you're putting like plus 1,400. Like, you want to throw that in a round robin. I guess I don't blame you. Because, again, Ulberg chalked up, or KO prop is chalked up, and I'm already playing one chalked up KO prop. I don't need to play two. Okay? Especially with these unpredictable big boys. So for me, it's a stay away because it leaves you down to the round props, but it's like round 1 and round 2 ain't even worth playing and having to choose Parker and that with Ulberg, right? You know, he's shown that not only can he win in round 3, he can win in round 3 by submission in his last fight. So it's like, I don't know, man. I'm going to pick Ulberg by round 2 knockout, but it's dog or pass, but honestly it just feels like a pass. And there's a couple of these fights that feel like that for different reasons. This fight could arguably be one of them. Rebecki, minus 410. Carlos Diego Ferreira, plus 320. Of course, Diego Ferreira, 2-3 against UFC level lefties. I just updated that Southpaw report and paid off a shot that I wanted to give off since the last time. As annoying as it was to be like, I got the analysis right with Michael Johnson, and it was showing just like I showed in the Southpaw report, and then Carlos Diego Ferreira comes out and nukes him with one shot. Now, bad Dan Tom Juju luck, sure, I guess. But you know what it was more importantly, was worth highlighting there, is the good work from CDF, the in-fight adjustments, fueled by a hat tip there to Coach Saif Saud, who was calling for the jabs. Again, you know, we just talked about not seeing jabs enough in open stance matchups, and sure enough, Saif Saud calling for it, and you see, I edited it as best I can, you see Carlos Diego Ferreira, he's getting countered for it. He'll connect with a jab at first, he'll get countered for it in round 1, but he's getting that feel. He's finding the line of not just the outside foot awareness, but that up slight to the left center line that Coach Saif's giving him to go in the corner, and he goes out and he gets that knockout. And Rebecki, even though he, you know, I don't want to judge him too harshly off of his not his Contender Series fight, but his debut fight that went to decision against Nick Fiore, because that was one of those quick put together last minute opponent switch, like most of Rebecki's UFC fights seem to be, and he made the mistake. And kind of hard to blame him. It looked like he was going to get him out of there at a certain point. So it's like, can you really blame the fighter for selling out? But yeah, classic mistake of fighter selling out. And sacrificing his cardio, getting too wild. And you see him getting cuts under his left eye because those counter right hands were the common culprit. And you see some of those in his later fight against one of the guys. Loik Radzhabov even land some of those. So Carlos Diego Ferreira, who has been, you know, getting much better with his hands in his career in general, as well as in the open stance matchup in particular with that right hand, as we saw, right? Old dog still learning new tricks. He's a fellow 1985er. What's up, CDF? You know, but is he going to go the way of the 1985er of one of our favorite 1985ers, Double K, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, right? Double K, jeez. But yeah, is she, you know, another 1985er? Is he going to buck the 1985 trend? You know. It's a harder trend to buck as the years go on, much less 1985ers we see in the octagon. But I'm going to pick Rebecki here, probably by a round 2 KO from body strikes in a different way than Gamrot beat him. Although he's been training with Gamrot, of course, Rebecki has been doing his camps over at American Top Team since he's been with the UFC. And he's continued that trend here. He's been there for at least 11 weeks with this one, training with some really good people. So I'm going to pick Rebecki here, but this is both a wait-and-see spot, and I actually feel like the value is on Carlos Diego Ferreira. I feel like I'd be tempted at his opener. You know, I wouldn't blame anybody for the opener at 2-1, but now you're getting, you know, over 3-1. Oh, you know, especially if you get like plus 330, close to 350, if you get to there, starts getting to there, folks. I feel like you're obligated just to take a shot. You know, or I might even throw, I don't think I'm going to do a hedge round robin. There's not too much that's jumping out to me. But if not too much jumps out to me, even on my normal round robin, I may just throw like Ferreira in there just for the value. You know what I'm saying? So I hope I'm wrong. Best of luck if you are taking a stab on the dog. But I'm going to pick Rebecki by a second round stoppage. Alex Caceres, plus 170. Sean Woodson, minus 205. Oh, I'm speaking in Scottish accent. Brownie, get down. I'm getting hungry. Let's get through this, Dan. So this fight's weird too. This is kind of the same one where I'm going to pick the favorite, but I feel like the value and my heart is with the underdog here for Caceres. I don't blame you for taking the shot on Caceres. I just feel like this is going to be a weird fight where left hands. Again, back to this is why I referenced the common culprit. Both these guys have common culprit with the left hands. No matter the stance for Woodson, whether you're talking about the Saldana check hook in round 1, or Jourdain was able to land some left hands in his fight because Jourdain's fight switch stance. I'm still putting the Southpaw report together for that one. However, Woodson ended up landing much more left hands because Woodson, no matter what the stance, he loves switching to southpaw and like drawing you into a cross counter. But it's especially potent, as I always say. There's a natural blind spot that you can reliably bet on that exists with like all southpaws because there's something about that. Again, we talk about that blind spot over the shoulder, right? Left foot. I just referenced the Poetan Jamal Hill. The southpaw killer there, right? Shout out to Connor Rebush. But, like, that southpaw killer, right? And, again, it's doubly so when you go to the Darren Till, Jorge Masvidal, where it's a southpaw and southpaw version, even though he jump shifted to that. But, yeah, he threw it over that blind spot in the left hand. So that's going to be really live against Caceres here. That being said, again, Woodson gets touched up by left hands, too. Woodson likes to mirror stances against lefties. He'll throw a left kick, so he'll get his jab going. But even though it's like very brief instances, like it's probably the only southpaw clip I can grab from the McKinney fight is like the very beginning of it. He just pops McKinney coming in with a jab as McKinney comes in southpaw. And you see even Giga with his jab, who's not like really known for his jab, so to speak, although he has some underrated straight punches Giga Chikadze has. But you see the success Giga has with counter crosses, straights, lefts, and jabs. Able to stop Caceres a couple times, pop him good a couple times, and get some momentum off his own jab. So seeing that has me leaning in the Woodson direction, even though both could hurt each other, and you shouldn't be surprised. I won't be surprised. I do suspect that Woodson is the more likely fighter to hurt Caceres. That being said, size parity, size parity arguably... Woodson still flows just as well, in my opinion, but I would argue size parity, I don't know if I want to say hurts Woodson more, or I think a more fair way to say it is helps Caceres more, this dynamic. Because Caceres, both with size parity and striking, like he's got a lot of wins against tall guys from like Arosa or this or that, but even his losses, like their competitive splits against like hard kickers, athletes, like regardless if you think it should have been a split or not, like against is it a split against Giga? I know it's a split against Yair, but the point is, regardless of the results in those fights, even though he loses, right? Those kind of matchups, even though he doesn't have the length advantage, Caceres, there's size parity at play. These are striking friendly fighters who this is true too, where people accuse Caceres of fighting to his level. There's definitely something to that. But I also believe, more specifically to this matchup, that Caceres is probably going to fight well. We're going to get a good version of Caceres because not just fighting to the level, regardless of what you think of Woodson's level. Woodson is a flowy striker guy who likes to strike. And in those matchups, Caceres does well. It's guys who are just athletes and want to just bowl Caceres over, whether they want to bowl him to the ground or just bowl into him. Like, those are the people that give him problems, right? Like, when people want to strike, even if they're super dangerous at striking, like Yair or Giga, that's what Alex wants to do, and that brings out the best in Alex. So for that alone, Alex is going to be very lively here. I don't blame anybody for playing him. But I am going to pick Woodson by decision, and I will probably be staying away from the fight. I want to try to not be contrarian Dan, like even though this is a complete different context of like seeing all the MMA gamblers bet the veteran and get weirded out and go the other way. Because I got weirded out for good reason, because they don't normally do that, right? Like there's no one more ageist / racist to older people than MMA gamblers. That being said, this is more of a both questionable and as well as very typical MMA gambler thing where everybody is tripping over their dicks to go bet this lower level. I don't want to say lower level because both these guys are considered prospects, but I won't say lower level, but this heavyweight garbage fest. Okay, it's not lower level, but it's still a garbage fest, in my opinion. All right, you got fucking Waldo Cortez Acosta, who is just dances, salsa boy, is just the most annoying, dislikable fighter. Like, whether he's shooting his momentum in a literal sense of not getting finishes or stealing rounds as hard as he could, But also, it's like as if that's not enough to shoot yourself in the own foot. He's like, how can I just not shoot myself in the own foot in the scorecards? But can I kill two birds with one stone and make myself completely unfucking likable to the fans? Congratulations, Waldo Cortez Acosta. You did it. Again, MMA sport, a fan base, like, give a shit about its history, about the older fighters. Like, you actually made people give a shit about an older fighter in Orlovsky, who I always love, of course. But you know what I'm saying. Like, that's how fucking terrible this guy is. And you got Rebellos of Spain, who, not just heavyweight, he's just like, the only thing missing is the fact is him like having a cup of coffee with the NFL team for the amount of hype that he's getting. And again, am I gonna watch? Is he interesting as hell? Absolutely. But it's that flashy shit where it's like, process be damned, like athletic, spinny, explosive guy. Oh, everybody just starts coming so hard, right? Like MMA gamblers, right? And then you got like the heavyweight Dana White UFC matchmaker like hype. Like they're gonna. Are they even opening the card with this shit? Like, ridiculous. They're opening the card with fuck. And again, in their defense, when they do this with middleweights, and they open with middleweights, in their defense, like, it is a fight that's going to end inside the distance or end rather quickly. But I hate that because it's like, that doesn't mean it's good. Just because it ends fast doesn't mean it's good. Okay? Just because they're not low level doesn't mean it's good. This is a perfect example of that. And even if the hype and the ceiling is justified, which I don't necessarily agree for potential ceiling, with, again, the caveat for it being heavyweight for Despaigne. What the fuck have we seen from him? How much have we seen against whom? And where? Because none of those categories, however you want to look at it, however you want to combine it, take a shot, Dan's about to say it, equals a decent sample size. But we got FOMO, CLV, raw. I only got this minus number one. I got this minus. Everyone's comparing their dicks on MMA Twitter. Spinny, explosive athlete. You know, like, like, God, dude, don't mention Monal Cap's name while they're, like, breaking down Roman. They're just explosive potential. Like, it's... it's always athlete and explosive, which again, kind of borderline racist. Can we talk? These guys each have legitimate skills, whether it's Cop, who I legitimately like, has got legitimate skills, and Despaigne, I'm sure, has plenty of legitimate skills that he's yet to show us. But no, we're gonna come on we're gonna just keep coming on ourselves and tripping over our own dicks to bet heavyweight chalk. As a guy who bet heavyweight chalk on the top of the card, I know, but at least it's one with a sample size and I can show my work. And of course, will I end up losing again? I'm sure I will, but at least I can show my work. Meanwhile, the lazy analysis, whether it's lazy positive analysis, like Despaigne, whatever, or lazy negative analysis with Martinez or Pantoja, it'll get proven right, I'm sure, regardless of result. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyways. Boy, you can tell I'm real fucking joyful about breaking down heavyweight fights. Yeah, anyways, that's about all of that fight fucking deserves. Let's go to the prelim that should, one of 3 or 4 fights that should be the opener, could be the opener, and deserve to be on the main card, more than at least 3 of the fights that are on the main card. And this one's not even that strong of a case for it, but I still go to bat for it over that heavyweight bullshit. We had Chase Hooper, plus 120. Or Vyacheslav-Borisov, minus 142. This is the one fight that I didn't get to yet, that I will get to before fight time. Unfortunately, get to you guys before podcast time. Not that I have any more room on my budget, or I'm trying to bet more chalk in Borschev. But if it's what I think, I do want to look at Borschev round 2 and Borschev KO. Both those, playing those straight up and or in a round robin, kind of divvying between. Again, I kind of will, depending on what makes most sense. There is a method to the madness. Something I am semi-proud of saying, despite being beaten down, because it's pointless, because I lose anyways. But yes, I am semi-proud to say that I can at least, be quizzed at any time. I can show you the receipts, explain the bet, everything like that. But yeah, I want to look into this one more. The lean is Borschev, but, we'll see where I end up. This one, speaking of Old Faithful, you guys should have known where I'm going with this one. Esteban Ribovics, minus 166. Terrence McKinney come back on him, plus 140. I actually do like to believe McKinney and what he's saying as far as potential improvements, and I am making room for McKinney as far as his potential improvements, but I don't think we can bank on anything too drastic, as far as that goes, because we still haven't seen it. And when I say I'm making room for improvement, I'm thinking like he can get out of round one. I'm not saying he can win in round two, but he can get out of round one whether or not he can win. And that's what I'm banking on because, of course, I took Ribovics here. I do the round split. It's going to be my prop squad for rounds 2 and round 3. A little bit better odds here. I have it in front of me, but it's around like 850 and 1400. I think I got crappier odds than that though, as per usual. I think for my round 3 I got 1300, and I want to say maybe plus 750 or something. I can't remember offhand. I didn't get a chance to write it down. Because I placed my bets rather late, like a little bit before the podcast. I've just been like, I haven't even been stopping to place bets. I've just been like crushing analysis and Southpaw reports and trying to hit deadlines that I forget about myself in my own pocketbook. But yeah, like last time we saw him was against Kamuela Kirk, and that was a pretty decent fight. Went to decision. It was one of the lesser talked about fights at a great card, which was UFC 290. But like you go back to that fight, which I believe curtain jerked, and it went to decision, and not a lot of people talked about it. But that was a pretty decent fight, and again, adding to why like the fact that it was even a question to what both the fight of the year and the card of the year was fucking stupid. UFC, they both happened on the same card. It was UFC 290, and it was Pantoja Moreno 2. But good analysis and things that deserve it goes to the fucking shit side, of course. Anyways, but yeah, so but as much stuff goes to the shit side, as much as I end up in the red and not the black, as red as my leg has been, as much as I suck, what have I been hitting? It's been fading the first round finishers, the gas bags, the faders, against the building fighters. And again, Buckley is not necessarily a building fighter, though I played that dynamic anyways due to the context. This one, however, well, Ribovics has got that swag, where he kind of gets the rhythm of the fight. I really like his style. Perhaps I'm a little biased to that. Is it perfect? Does he have holes in certain things? Yes, and I actually want to, even though McKinney is switch, I still got to go back to dot some I's and cross some T's for this matchup, just for the Southpaw report portion of it. Because I'm still because again, like someone asked earlier, I do incorporate the switch fighters, so I do have to backtrack and go through that to make sure there's nothing relevant I missed there for the Southpaw report portion. But as far as my pick, my read on this fight, where my money's going, yeah, I feel good about Ribovics. I put, and it's not even a lot. It's a half a unit on round 2, and it's a Scottie Pippen 0.33 on round 3, so it's really only just over 3/4 unit exposure, and maybe I'll put like one of the rounds in a round robin. I've been conflicted on it, so like a lot of the times I've been putting round 2 in the or round 3 in the round robins, and then the round 2s have been hitting right, and I'm like fuck, and I'm like, well, if I do a round 2 and round 3 split, naturally I should just put round 2 in the round robin to get extra money off it, right? Because if round 3 hits, if one of them hits and you have FOMO about one not being in the round robin, at least let the one for the higher value hit and not be in the round robin, if that makes sense, right? And if my luck's going to be so to where I'm going to get the lesser of good for the times that I actually get the good, well, then let's make it the one with the higher number. So I don't know if that made sense the way I just said it, but basically the way my logic goes is, let's put the round 3 standalone, and then if we double up, we're playing both the rounds with a flyer unit. But if we only put one of the rounds in the round robin, I'm going to put the one with a lesser number in it, because that'll get amplified by the round robin. And if I choose wrong Parker, but one of them hits, well, at least I can take solace in, even though I only get a round robin hit over here and it's not attached to the round robin. It's at least a bigger round flyer than this one would have hit for. Maybe makes up for some silver lining. I don't know if that made sense, but yeah, we'll see where I end up on that one. Let's go down to the next fight and let's push through the rest of this. Let's cut through this. We got Tabitha Ricci minus 145, Tisha Pennington plus 120. So the line's not really moving too much on this one. I get it, the more active fighter is this going to be a time where I bet a veteran? I bet a veteran coming off a layoff, but it's a Tisha Torres and not a Jose Aldo or an Amanda Nunes. So I'm going to eat shit if I end up betting where my pick is, which is going to be a Torres pick here, by the way. You know, I feel like she's not going to get a standing finish like Fiorot or anything, but even like at 3/4 of her prime, she should be able to comfortably out-decision Ricci. This isn't the small cage, so it's even more room for the Tisha-Pennington, Tisha Torres footwork and volume to get going. And Ricci's, you know, my gosh. I think I saw Herb like just do like a like blatant like at the check-in station like Jesus Christ, like Jesus fucking Christ, like Jesus. I think my Irish comes out, you know, like when it comes to like sexually based things, like, you know, checking like interpreting someone's like kind of like checking out someone sexually, like you could just see like Herb Dean going, oh Jesus, he was Irish, like he was just like woo, he was just kind of blown back by that view, and I don't blame him. But not to sound like a creep here, I only bring that up. Not to out myself as a creep, only to do that, but also to say that, you know, it's fucked up. It's kind of like the same thing. It's like if we're gonna throw this shit on the judges to where like I forget what it was. I was on a podcast, one of the recent podcasts with a guest on here. Maybe we were talking about like Michelle Waterson, where like with the close fight, where it's like someone's like how did she win that fight or whatever. It's like, yeah, I feel like one of the judges was like an Asian wife dude, and he was just like, yeah, and he was just focusing on Michelle Waterson and not looking at the other fighter. And as fucked up as it is to say, like, I am much more believing that bias would ruin a fight than an actual fight fix in the UFC, at least, maybe not in boxing. So you gotta, if you're gonna throw that criticism out there, you gotta throw it to the bettors, right? And it's like, are people just like, and she opened as a favorite, granted, it was the odd setters, but our bettors, you know, not only did they not like the older fighter, Ricci's hot, you know, so if anything, I would hope we would get a better line on Torres, to be honest. So that being said, the fact that I've got such heavy chalk on the main card, I want to balance out with some kick for coverage and some plus money. And I know I have a lot of plus money with the round flyers and stuff. But yeah, I'm looking at 2 dogs, possibly 2 WMMA dogs, right? And Torres is one of them. As if I do bet, it's just a 1 unit straight, just a thing. We'll see if I get there or not. Gonna look a little bit more into that one. We got Billy Goff plus 136, Trey Waters minus 162. I'm probably not gonna look into this one, nor do I really want to bet it. From what I remember of both, I agree that Trey Waters should be favored, but it's not a fight I'm gonna rush out and bet, much less the Trey Waters chalky side. This is another, like many of these fights, for many different reasons, whether it's comebacks on pregnancies, seeing their level on a step up, just seeing more of them in general, because they're contender series fighters. This is one of the many probable passes for me, and probably should be for you, if I dare say so, and I'm bold enough to say. Another one for those reasons, or for my own reasons, because we don't bet Charles Johnson fights, and I love Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson plus 120, Jake Hadley minus 142. I'm probably going to lean toward Hadley here, but if Charles Johnson can, you know, not just find his body work faster, but just find his offense faster, hopefully, realizing he's in 3-round fights finally, he's got a decent chance of winning this fight, hence why it's lined closely. However, even though I don't see Hadley submitting Johnson, he does have the grappling advantage. He does have a savvy southpaw style that I'm going to be looking more into for the southpaw report. But again, for a bet, you know, you could argue that we're in pick a side and ride territory for sure. You know, I may be playing 2 numbers right in this category. So for as much as I can criticize, I'm trying to keep that same energy, just like I said with the Urseg bets or anything. Not that I'm against that. I gave a lot of love to Urseg and Urseg bettors pre. I gave a lot of love to Urseg and Urseg bettors post. And I'm going to keep the same message I have in there. It's not that I'm calling y'all crazy. It's that I just feel like you guys should have got a better line for what's reasonably being asked. Again, lack of sample size, right? That's not going to stop MMA gamblers. And again, to quote Johnny the Greek, bad bets cash all the time. So these shitty bets on chalk or otherwise inexperienced contender series fighters or otherwise will cash way more than my bets where I actually take the time And to make things worse, the analysis actually does show, but the bet is a go out the window. So I'm going to lean toward Hadley. Check me on fight day at Dan Tom MMA. And because of my history with Charles Johnson fights, whether I bet him in the decision he wins and then he loses, or I bet Jalgas who should have wins and he loses, or I bet Johnson round 2 against Jimmy Flick, and for whatever reason, Caceres-Hadley has his one career early stoppage, and you guys have seen that it wasn't just me crying over spilt milk because Caceres-Hadley has went ahead and tried to kill many fighters since then to prove the point I was talking about. Well, I was upset that round 2 didn't go the way I tried to go. It was another connection like an all by round 2. What a huge swing. I still would have been a loser last year and this year, but hey, God forbid, right? We got me all the way up the A. Jared Gooden plus 185, Kevin-Jousset minus 225. Again, I don't disagree with the favorite here. And even though we've seen more Jousset and Gooden, and there's more to like and look at from them than maybe a Waters or Goff per se, it still fits into the same category except with a less likable line. So, yeah, I'll probably be picking Kevin-Jousset, but I'll probably be passing and not really looking into this fight too much and haven't looked into it too much, to be honest, /clearly anyways. Is it lastly but not leastly the ladies? Yeah, lastly but not leastly. Yeah. JJ Aldrich plus 114. And Veronica Hardy, all the ladies are getting married. I'm getting old following this sport because people are getting old and ladies are getting married. They're having babies. And then Veronica Hardy, yeah, which is, formerly Veronica Macedo, minus 135. This is tough. It's like, you could argue should be even, or you could even argue maybe Aldrich is the favorite. But Aldrich, despite having more process than a lot of fighters in her division, despite process arguably being some of the things that defines her from her wins and losses in the division, she's also been pretty inconsistent in a lot of ways. Or maybe you could say consistent as far as her potential, even though she doesn't always do it, which is why I say inconsistent. But her potential, especially against athletes, right, and very strong fighters or intense fighters, to kind of drop off midway through round 2, right? And I don't know if I want to say Veronica Hardy is an athlete, but she certainly can fight with the intensity. However, is it as much intensity as it before? Because she, it's more measured, but it's arguably an equal trade-off because she also is fighting better, right? She's shown improvements, which I'm guessing is what justified this line. Gonna go back and rewatch. I clearly didn't do it, so I didn't lock this play in or pick in. But I'm looking to pick and play the Aldrich side. I just want to look at the improvements and how good were the improvements? Are they good enough to convince me as well? And if they are good, I want to judge how much of a jump was it. Was it more of an expected jump in the sense of there could be more to come? How old is she? How much more can we expect? How long has she been fighting, so to speak? Right? You're looking at these things. So I'll pull that up now. Why not? And it's just like to know like okay, trying to. This is why like people say, why would you watch more than the last 3 to 5 fights? Well, you want to go back further if the last 3 to 5 fights don't have the style matchup that you're looking for, and even though the further you go, the less relevant it is due to time, granted, you also do want to see how they do against a southpaw or a tall fighter, whatever the matchup calls for. Thirdly, another reason, not that I suggest people being nuts like me and doing as much tape study as me, because it's a waste of your time, clearly, look at my results. But another reason why you could justify doing it is if you want to see what their learning curve is, what's their likeliness to improve, So if they do make an unexpected jump, is it unexpected? Well, if it is unexpected, then maybe we can bet that they might not make any more jumps because of that. Or if they have quietly shown a steady learning curve, well, then maybe we should be leaving more room to be surprised, as I always say, right? So for those reasons, you actually do want to go back and see how fast their skills are progressing, Even if it's not even like a matchup thing. It's just like catching up with a fighter. Like I want to, like Ribovics, I was watching fights from like 2016, then I would watch a fight from 2018 and 2019, and you get like a view, from there, how fast this guy's improving or not, which is why I wasn't also that high on him. But yeah, and Macedo, Hardy, I should say, is NA. Oh, thank you. 1995. Jesus Christ. So she's 24. 29. Okay, so she's still in the age to improve, and she's only been fighting with a lot of canceled belts, granted, since 2014, 2015-ish. So, yeah, I mean, she's still in her prime to improve. I'm going to rewatch it to see how I feel, see how it stacks up. I don't think she actually has faced Southpaw, so I do got to go look at that, I believe, right? Because she's faced Jillian Robertson, at least one Southpaw. So, yeah, I got to go check Jamie Lynn Horth and Bay Malecki. But yeah, I'm gonna go run through that through the comb. But I'm looking to potentially. It would be nice if, again, I'm not gonna force it. Only if the analysis lines up to have 2 dog shots, right? Because if the analysis lines up, that doesn't mean we're gonna get winners. Nor should anybody think that. But especially with me and my luck, right? And the way I think about it is, it's 2 winners, bro. It was funny, like, I always joke, like, maybe I should just come out here like a sideways cat, but, yeah, bro, I'm the best, I'm 2,400 units on this, and then, like, I do my, like, lazy, like, making fun of, like, MMA gamblers thing that I'm sure makes me so popular in the space, and I was joking, I was just like, maybe I was talking to myself, as I do, I was like, maybe I just changed my name to fucking MMA Giga Chad, and I saw, like, there is actually someone named MMA Giga Chad, and they follow me, so shouts to you, whoever you are, probably a nice guy, too. I'm like, wow, you're such an asshole. You're both accurate and an asshole, Dan. Again, analysis is right, that's wrong, right? I'm very accurate, also kind of an asshole. It can be. So there's that. But yeah, in a perfect world, though, yeah, I would like to play Torres, Tisha Torres, and Aldrich, and ideally one of those hit, right? And that ideally balances out the 2 dog plays, balance out the 2 chalk plays, where, again, I feel like we have a good chance of both hitting Buckley and Lewis, but I always leave room. And despite still losing, I always plan to not hit everything. And again, I actually try to strategically spread shit out, which makes it even more upsetting and frustrating that I keep losing. But yeah, so long as we just hit one of our 2 big chalk plays and one of our 2 dog plays, we should come out on top. And then sprinkle in with the whatever we can pick up with the round robin or these little round flyers that attach to the people that are most probably to win in the rounds. They are most probably to win. Hot rounds. Get your hot rounds here. That should get us above the line. But despite being bad, I still end up hitting all these round flyers. And despite, like, the other day where I finally got I had to hit 3 round flyers and I still barely got another black. Like, that's how fucked up this game is. That's why I hate so much, at least for me. That's why I hate easy night. My friends who are my friends, not just because you're my friends, because you have your own podcast and you guys actually call the shots before it. You guys are exempt from the easy bets and easy money, obviously, because you guys have your own shows. You're doing your own. You guys are actually putting it out there, okay? I got all up to you guys. So hopefully none of my friends, fellow gamblers, or podcasters think I'm talking trash when I say that about them. It's just my pet peeve for the reason of fact that none of us are in there. It feels kind of silly. B, it's never an easy night for me. And C, it's directed toward the after the fact people that are not just in my mentions or in other people's mentions. I even got mad at some other dude that was even coming at me. He was in some other guy's mention. He was just going around shitting on people that bet like a certain fighter, and it's just like, you didn't even like post any of your picks or play, like, you just an after the fact person. Like, those people are the fucking worst. So that's what I mean. All right, let's wrap up the chat and get the fuck out of here. This thing went way too long. Let's try to wrap this out under 2. I'm gonna go back to the chat. 152. Chat clean. All right. Let's see. Jesus Christ. All right. Heavyweights. Why, yes. Jin Karasu says Nascimento is the split decision king at heavyweight. How funny would it be if he subbed Lewis as a low percentage as that is? That would be funny, but not too funny because that means I lost. James Kendrick says, I feel bad for you watching that Gelton versus Lewis fight. I feel bad for me too. Thank you. That was painful. Having to relive these fights too, again, just to relive the pain on some of these has been fucking great, I tell you. Synchro Wing, do you like it when Derek Lewis posts pictures of himself jogging and then gasses out even quicker the next fight? Exactly. Another reason why I don't put too much into the shape thing. Ghost Phantom says, how come no one does the Mark Hunt game plan, what he did versus Lewis, where you double jab him to the fence and then throw a wide hook to the body as Lewis plods toward to the power side along the fence? It really was tried and true, You're preaching to the choir, Ghost. You really are. I don't. Heavyweight is my answer. Heavyweight is the answer. Heavyweight is the answer for everything. Unless the answer is middleweight. Dana White. Fucking ancient aliens guy meme. Makoto Kyogoku, what does money line mean? Does that mean you can lose the bet but keep the money? So confusing. Maybe you can clarify. A money line means you're betting. So when I set up these matchups in my breakdown, Makoto, I say like, you know, Ricci minus 135, Torres plus 114. That's what I'm stating the money line is. So when I reference who is the favorite, which is who is favored to win, who is the underdog, right? Who is likely favored to lose. Those numbers represent that. The minus means they're favored. The plus means they're the underdog. And money line is just another title for that. So it's kind of within that same family. So when I say kick for coverage and play the money line, that means as long as the fighter wins by any means necessary, submission, knockout, decision, you still cash your bet. If it's a no contest, a disqualification means you lose, or just an outright loss, well, you lose your money in that case. If that makes sense, hopefully. Thank you for the question. Rio says in Truesdale, Buckley is a southpaw, but he also chases people around in a line. Does that annoy you as bad as a habit as that is? Do you think he could benefit from Saenchai to stand at range and let his opponents fall short? Definitely a little more of that Saenchai. We could all use a little bit in our life. But yeah, I think I did touch on that. He still falls under that old habit, which is annoying to answer your question. More annoying for Joaquin Buckley and his supporters, though, because that's what could get him caught here. Makoto Kyogoku, since Buckley is not a builder, would you consider him as a proximity counterpuncher like Conor Rebush calls fighters who will swing hard when you stand close to them? I could see that. I don't want to crib Connor's classification there, especially if I'm not too familiar with that, but that sounds pretty accurate to me. Rain Lamina, Pat Barry, the song Girls of 15. Oh, Jesus Christ. Couldn't they have like gotten to that person's ear and like, or like Girls of, oh no, wait, I'm thinking of the song She's Only 16. Oh, God. Statutory rape rock. I mean, my God. Couldn't we have changed it to like She's Only 18, you know? Like, couldn't somebody have gotten into the ear there? Jesus Christ. Ghost Phantom, southpaw jabs. Love them. Rarely see it, but when you do, it controls the rhythm and it controls position. Love the open stance jab. Absolutely. Preaching to the choir, my friend. Well said. Jimmy Kudo, you are a southpaw yourself. Do you ever get hit by southpaw killer left straights again? I get hit by everything because I suck. But yes, I get hit by those. Philosophical question, he adds. Do you think an orthodox fighter can leverage that by going southpaw against the southpaw, or is that an overcorrection of steering wheel? No, not necessarily. Again, you saw Masvidal pull it off against Darren Fochentil. And you're going to see Sean Woodson attempt to do that with the left hand in particular over Alex Caceres. Watch for that. He loves mirroring and actually has a decent arsenal from there, which is rare. So funny you bring that up. Synchro Wing, Waldo Cortez Acosta is a D-bag. He's the worst. Yeah, worse than Etor. Yep. He definitely deserves the canned treatment. We could recycle that gift for Waldo Cortez Acosta. In fact, if someone wants to recycle that and make one and tag me at the PYN, I will retweet you. Keep the gimmick alive. Walter Cortez Acosta is one of the worst guys in MMA. All right, you guys are living by that. Thank you. Coming strong. Rain Lamina, I think the proper term for is black explosive when you refer to an African-American fighter. Like Sadiq Yusuf says, Jack Slack says it a lot, but I am actually black explosive. Yes, that is a thing, a self-admitted thing. I just, I got to call it out as well, though. Rhea says in Truesdale, they do that explosive thing with Figgy as well. Just weird. Yeah, of course. James Kendrick, we all hate heavyweight fights here, especially Waldo. What a disrespectful person. I'm putting that lightly. Oh, you guys come with a Waldo hate. I love it. Don't have to ask for where's Waldo hate in this chat. Rain Lamina, I hope Tisha Torres loses this because she blocked me when I said that's the closest you're going to get to the UFC belt. Letitia was, oh, that's not nice. I got to give love to Tisha there. I do hope she unblocks you, but I mean, can you blame her? I love you, Rain, but can you blame her? You're welcome here, Rain. You can talk shit to me if you want. James Kendrick, I won't block you either. James Kendrick, Herb Dean being a creeper is funny. Just classic Herb. Jesus Christ, Herb catching the strays. Rhea says in Truesdale, I heard on Santino DeFranco podcast, I'm guessing, that the judges who know the UFC is pushing And if they score it for the B side, the judge won't be hired again. You know, I'm not going to say that's true or not. But obviously the commissions blatantly adhere and fold to the UFC, as we saw with Power Slap, right? If they don't adhere and do what the UFC likes favorably, they won't come. And who works for the commissions? The judges, right? Now, although I would like to think that's not true, and I would like to stick up for the judges there like I do stick up for them in other places, to be fair. What I will say, as somebody who, you know, being in a room, taking these courses, certifications, in the room, hearing things from the horses' mouths themselves, they instruct you, both the judges, the league commissions, active refs, and judges giving out these courses, to even beginner potential judges in the room, to people like slubs like myself, right? Top-down messaging is that there are commissions that will ask you to do things that are technically against what code or updated code is. Now, it's technically wrong. You are technically within your right to cite that. You are technically within your right to, whether you cite that or not, to decline and not work with that commission. But if you do cite that, chances are you probably won't be working with that commission in the future either, right? Even if you cite and want to, if you make a fuss, in other words. They were very clear as well as very careful to walk a certain line in basically pointing out that you might want to do what the commission says if you want to work. So if that's true, and at the risk of continuing to not get invites back to any of these judges' things that I have since I've been more vocal about this stuff, and say what you will about me or the shitty numbers this podcast pulls, what other podcast is giving you this insight? Not many others can, not many others are, much less in this context, much less in this fairness. But yeah, if they're telling their judges to do that, are we going to sit there and say the UFC doesn't have an influence when they have an influence on the body that hires and is instructing these judges per influence? I'll just leave it at that. I'd like to think not. Of course not. I'd like to defend these judges. Of course I would. And I'm not going to sign off on things I don't know. But I did share what I do know. And if we do know that, what else don't we know? That's the tough part. And I hate to play in a conspiracy theory alley that's so damn popular and so dangerous. But goddamn, are they bringing it upon themselves? And again, not just for my bets on woe is me with the Weidman, Silva, New Jersey Athletic Commission, the Dan Mergliotta call. But again, they only bring it upon themselves when they continue to blatantly cover their own asses and fuck over the fighters. When they blatantly talk about their jobs, their personnel is number one, when their whole body is there for fighter safety and adjudicating things for fairness of the fighters. The fighters being the focus, but it's not. It's covering their own ass. That's their focus. Rios and Truesdale says, and they don't get pushed. I'm not sure how true that is. Yeah, well, I just gave you my opinion on that. Opinion you're not going to hear at other places, by the way. Jin Karasu, Hadley has to be one of the worst human beings on the face of this earth. He has let fighters almost die in the cage. I mean, I don't want to come at these guys personally, but it's hard to defend when they keep going to doing those things, right? You know, I want to say I'm sure he's a nice guy, but can I blame you for having that opinion? That's not my opinion, for what it's worth, but you know, I don't think it's true. But yeah, the guy's bad at stoppages. Reese and Truesdale, how big of an advantage does Hardy have having Dan Hardy as a coach? I like to think a decent one, you know, as far as like somebody that's like doing good analysis and whatnot, right? I mean, you look at like Safe Ayud preaching hit the like button, by the way. I don't deserve it, but if you guys can do that if you're watching, or log into the YouTube, just hit the like button if you're watching through Twitter, please. But like just Safe Ayud saying to throw the jab, and look how much that did, right? So like, yeah, of course, someone like Dan Hardy who pours over the tape is gonna be helpful. In some sense, I don't know how much. James Kendrick, do you know what Ant Evans is? He's extremely racist toward Chinese people and any Chinese fighter. I know you know him, but is what it's called a Chud. I want to say being careful about Ant being racist against Asians because, speaking of the Asian wife card, he's got the Asian wife card. Shout out to the guy, my brother Mark Fellows got an Asian wife, but he's not throwing any of that energy. So again, I want to be careful with any of these stereotypes, as I just pointed out from these examples, that you could burn yourself and really, mischaracterize someone's character. And I definitely wouldn't dare do it with a golden salt of the earth character like a Mark Fellows. And although I've never met Ant Evans, he's definitely had some controversial opinions that have upset me in that realm too. So I also can see it. But I've had long conversations with Ant, and whether I agree with him or not, I definitely don't always agree with that guy for sure. Yeah, he is a useful resource. So I would just be careful on what you listen, what you listen. The factual behind the UFC stuff is great. His opinion stuff, yeah, I could care without, but how many people could care without my opinions or even my facts? You know what I'm saying? So who the fuck am I to talk, I guess? But yeah, I don't blame you for getting that vibe. I could see how you got that vibe, but I just wanted to throw that other fact out there, I guess. Ghost Phantom says, got that Animal House vid on repost. Tagged you, so we got the meme. All right, I'll share it after I get off here, Ghost, in a second here. I'm going to plow through the rest of this, and we'll get the fuck out of here with a recap. JL, who you got? Kambosos or Loma? I'm bad. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know enough about Kambosos. I'm a big Loma fan, so I will just lead you wrong and biasly toward Loma there. Why does Joe Rogan orgasm when he sees a low kick? Because he's got that same thing with the MMA gamblers, with the, I don't know, explosive fighters throw spin kicks and have a height and reach advantage. I don't know. It's just some things people key in on. I know. Fenyo had a great theory on it last time he was on the podcast, because Rogan he tells a story where he got leg kicked at his first, and then he ended up getting TKO'd, and it's like burnt into his head now. So he's just like, and he overreacts to that. And Fenyo, if you're listening, and those of you who know what I'm referencing, I would also lobby the same thing for DC with body kicks, because he's just like, the body kicks, and like body kicks would quietly like hurt him throughout his career. The Anderson Silva fight, like he still has like flashbacks. He'll reference that one in commentary, but like it's to the point where like when I did that Alex Perez highlight with the Jussier Formiga leg kick, when it comes to the highlight portion package on the broadcast that I included in the highlight where Cormier and Rogan are waxing, and Cormier, he's going, "Ooh, look, he got him with the toes. It's worse when you hit him with the toes," and I'm like, Cormier, that's what you say when it comes to like body kicks, like Barbosa and Dunham, or the toe kick, when you see that. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, folks. I know calf kicks, I've got a lot of experience throwing and taking throughout the years. I don't remember toes being a deciding factor. If anything, maybe to delineate that it didn't land clean, not that it landed good. But to Fino's point about, and back to the answer of why Rogan reacts so hard, I think that to the point of Fenyo, like you can get traumatized so hard by something that it sticks with you, where you have a bias toward that. And it was to the point where like DC's it's so strong that even if he's not kicking the body, if somebody kicks with their toes, that still like gives him body kick PTSD. He's like, oh, so sorry, long-winded answer to that. CYA, cover your ass. That's right, Rain Lamina. Rio says in Truesdale, or is Dan Hardy there negligible? It's not like Ghost, who is with Wei Lee, who is a fighter that is capable of implementing high-level idea because of Wei Lee's quick learning athleticism curve. Absolutely, yeah. You got to incorporate who is giving, who is able to apply, and, have they been able to apply, right? That's something you have to consider. All right, guys, thank you so much. Hit the likes, hit the shares. We're going to recap, get the fuck out of here. Taking, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. Oh, it's... hey, my suit's so tight. Sorry. Derek Lewis, a.k.a. the Juggernaut from the video. I got to catch up on this X-Men stuff, by the way. Like, this X-Men 97. I am so behind on that. I'm a big X-Men fan. But yeah, taking Lewis over Nascimento. Taking Buckley over Touchaboev. Taking Fantasy Jewish Fight League Ulberg over Menifield. Taking... fucking best fight odds. Taking Rebecki over Ferreira, even though I wouldn't mind being wrong on that one. Taking Woodson over Caceres. Caceres is live. Taking Despaigne over Acosta. I don't know why everybody's tripping over their dicks to bet that fight. What the fuck is wrong with you? Seek help. Taking, probably leaning toward Borschev over Hooper. Check me on Fight Day. Taking Ribovics over McKinney. Taking Pennington / Torres over Ricci Baby Shark. Taking Trey Waters over Goff, but no strong opinions. Staying away. Definitely staying away from the Charles Johnson fight, even though I'm rooting for Charles to win. I'll probably be leaning toward Hadley. Check me on fight day. Probably taking Jousset over Gooden, but staying away. Leaning toward Aldrich over Hardy. See if I pull the trigger on both the pick and a potential play on fight day, because I'm potentially looking to play dogs for their money line. Tisha Torres / Tisha Pennington there, as well as JJ Aldridge. But the only straight play I have locked in right now is Joaquin Buckley for -129 at with 1.5 units. Also took Buckley in rounds 2 and 3. Don't have numbers for you in front of me right now, but I took those at decent numbers, a quarter unit apiece, rounds 2 and 3 for a 2-unit exposure. Also took Lewis by KO at chalk, -145 at 1.5 units. And to finish the 2-unit exposure for that, for the main event, I sprinkled a half unit on Lewis round 2 KO plus 650. Also got Ribovics rounds 2, rounds 3, round 2. I believe in the neighborhood of 700-ish or around there, between that and 800 for a half a unit. And then I think I got 1,300 for round 3 at a Scottie Pippen. And I think that's all I have right now. I told you what I'm looking at for dogs. We'll see if I play anything as far as if I end up on Borschev, and if I do, I might be looking at round 2 / KO. And nothing else really jumping out to me too much here. We'll see what I fill as far as what numbers looks good to my analysis for filling out the round robin, which I have no clue what I'm going to do at this point. Maybe I throw like a Derek Lewis round 1 in there, because I was thinking about playing that, but I just chose the coverage that I chose. Who knows? Maybe I throw the Carlos Diego Fajeda. Definitely throw some round robins with the Buckley and Ribovics in there for those high numbers. We'll see what I do. Check me at Dan Tom MMA, of course, Action Network, where I track this epic losing streak that I'm on as I desperately try to turn myself around and save myself from further public humiliation. Thank you guys for supporting, sharing, liking. Shouts. I'm going to give more formal shouts to people contributing with the super thanks, even though I don't deserve it, especially on the losing nights. But those of you tipping the show in the super chat, I will get your questions anyways, obviously. But those of you doing pre, post, during, it's appreciated. I'm actually going to make sure I'm getting you guys a lineup shout. So, yeah, Jimmy Kudo, thank you for the show, Dan. Always appreciate time you give us. I appreciate the time you give us, Jimmy. You're enforcer number 1, ghost enforcer number 2. I don't know where I'd be without you guys, as well as the rest of you all in the chat. Thank you guys so much. It's been late, another long one. I apologize. Good luck on your picks and plays. Just be good to one another. There's a really depressing stuff going on out there. I'll save the vitriol as much as I want to let it out. It's not this show, so be good to each other. All right. Good luck on your picks and plays, and always protect your neck.